Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Cameroon Town Hall for Healthcare Professionals. If you are joining for the first time, this is the platform that brings together healthcare professionals from Cameroon. We used to meet every fortnight for the past 3, 4 years, and we discuss on topics in healthcare that can help improve on our healthcare system in Cameroon. The platform is made up of doctors, nurses, researchers, specialists of all kinds, and we are spread in almost 35 countries, and our number has grown over the years to almost 2,500 as we speak today. It's a pleasure to have you for this very first edition of the Cameroon Town Hall for Healthcare Professionals in 2025. We had a successful 2024, wherein we never skipped any session. We all had all our sessions, and we celebrated our 100th session last year. And today you can see from the invitation, we are on the number 117, I guess, Muno. And we continue to pride ourselves for the consistency in meeting and sharing our knowledge and the experience on this platform. So if you're joining for the first time, you're welcome to the Cameroon Town Hall for Healthcare Professionals. Today, I'll be co-moderating with Dr. Kate, who is surely dialing in from London, from the UK. And of course, we'll be expecting to have Dr. Brian Tegomo, who will be dialing in from the United States. And surely we are going to have Dr. Martin Vondo, who will be dialing in from Canada. These are the co-moderators for today. And of course, we have our chairperson, Dr. Muno Ken. Before we start, let me just take the opportunity to go around with the co-moderators and get a word of welcome to you guys. Hello, Dr. Kate, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Elvis. Really season's greetings to everyone. Happy New Year 2025. It's a new year. It's a new session of, Cameroon Town Hall professional meetings. And I'm just so happy and elated to be among us. I will not say among you, among us all. And I really look forward to seeing what Cameroon Town Hall is going to offer us as Cameroon healthcare professionals this year. And I'm obviously happy to see some faces that I do recognize, like my very own Anod Olala, who has joined us here. And obviously I can see the names of the different participants of the town hall throughout the years, and also some new names. So really greetings to everyone, and I just wish us a really smooth and wonderful conversation and discussions on this topic today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kate, and thanks for your continuous dedication and support to the Cameroon Town Hall. And despite your busy schedule, you always find time to join and co-moderate with me. Thank you very much. I think we don't yet have Dr. Brian. Is Dr. Brian in the house? Not yet. I'm sure Matt, Sandrine Matt is also not yet here. And then I'll take the opportunity to hand it over to our chairperson, Dr. Monoke, and thank you for your leadership, for always, sacrificing backstage as you do all the time to make sure that we keep having these sessions all through consistently without ever skipping any session. Thank you, Dr. Mono, for your leadership, and over to you to say a word of welcome to the town hall.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. And it's always a pleasure being at a town hall and getting to see all the familiar faces, and also to see that we've been doing this for almost 4 years, Elvis. You can't believe this. We've been doing this for almost 4 years since the peak of COVID. I think if one wants to talk about resilience, we've been here. We have discussed over 115 different topics throughout these 4 years. We have achieved marvels. We have gotten the Minister of Public Health to come over to this forum and answer questions from healthcare professionals and to tell us exactly the direction where our country is heading to. And I think it's time for us to, in the new year, we're going to address topics that may be painful for us to listen to as Cameroonians, but we need to talk about them. A lot of Cameroonian healthcare professionals are migrating to the diaspora. A lot of these young professionals do not have any form of guidance. They see others who are in the diaspora and they want to know how this can be done safely. So we're here today not to specifically go into the details of every field, but to try as much as possible for us to have a conversation about the different fields. I am a believer that once you train, whatever human resource you have, your country is going to benefit. So that is really my philosophy, and that's the reason why we, at the moderators, we thought about this topic. We felt that we're going to have a discussion and would want to share experiences from different people who have done things like this and who have left from Cameroon and have migrated to the diaspora. So Elvis, it's a pleasure. We are happy to have you all here, and we hope the number grows. It looks like it's an interesting topic. We're already having 38 people locked in. So Elvis, the number is growing, and please share, guys, so that we can have a conversation. Over to you, moderator. You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry for that. And thank you very much, Chair, for your leadership as well. It's because of all the hard work you put in backstage that we are able to meet here every fortnight. So as you mentioned, please kindly share the link to all your colleagues and friends. And if you're in the diaspora and anyone has been asking you how the pathway is, please share this link, share your link to them so they can join us. It's an opportunity for people to learn. But as we always do, this town hall, we always have a YouTube channel. We record all our sessions, and we always make sure that we host the recorded session on our YouTube channel so that those who were unable to join us live because of their busy schedule can have the opportunity to listen to the town hall session. So that's an opportunity. And today's session is healthcare career opportunities in the diaspora. And as our chair said, it's going to be a conversation. We're going to have a conversation and not a formal presentation as we always do in previous sessions where we bring an expert to do a presentation. Today we have a number of town hall members who are all part of us, who will be sharing their experience and just giving you some guidelines to everyone out there on some of the do's and don'ts that you have to consider when you want to get a pathway into career opportunities in the diaspora. Of course, these are people that have experience and have also really either done it themselves or really help other people do it. We are talking in the likes of Dr. Ditah Chobufo, who is an interventional cardiologist, and we know he is doing a lot to help people who are reaching out to him to come do residency in the United States. We have people like Rudolph Malley, who is one of the trusted authority in clinical research and one of the top 1% contributors on LinkedIn when it comes to topics on clinical research, like being a CRA and all that. So we have those diverse people here in the platform that will each have a moment to tell you about the pathway to getting a career in the diaspora. And of course, before we get to the others, let's start with our own Dr. Ditah Chobufo, whom I'll ask our chair to just give a brief introduction of Dr. Chobufo if he's already in. I saw his name already. All right.
Yeah, I think Chobufo is in, but he may be busy, not able to start at this moment.
Okay, great.
So, yeah.
Then we give it up to Rudolph Malley. Now there are some career paths that are really exciting, interesting, and open to so many people in the healthcare field, but very few people know about. And Rudolph Malley has been one of those who have really spent quite a considerable amount of time in the clinical research space and training a lot of people to become clinical research associates, clinical research coordinators, and working with so many CROs across the United States, and I've had an opportunity to work with him. I remember earlier, 2 years ago, we did some training together, training some people who wanted to become clinical research experts. And I think he will be a very good voice to listen to if you are interested in gaining a career in clinical research. So I hand it over to you, Rudolph, and thank you for your time and for accepting to speak to us today. Take it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elvis, good friend, good family friend, and Dr. Mona over there. My career in clinical research, really, when I speak to people, I always say that I feel like everyone should be in clinical research because it's the pathway to medicine. We hear everybody appreciates the doctors for the good work, but nobody ever thinks about the researcher who sits at the back of the clinic, who is doing all the work to ensure that the medicine was made effectively. And careers in clinical research are enormous because from somebody who I started my career as a medical assistant. I was a medical assistant intern but I was given an opportunity for a clinic who was doing clinical research. That's where my career kind of began 10 years ago when I came to this country, and that was the first thing I did, and that's the only thing that I've done. I've really seen the growth pathway, but I also noticed that it's a pathway that's very, very small, that not many people think about it, many people know about it. They think about nursing or CNA, all the various different most popular pathways to medicine, but I want to really talk about clinical research. So if you're a clinical research professional, or the way clinical research profession works, you are part of the small group of people who work hard enormously to support that medication are being made, from the drug development, from the times that medication comes from animal research to what they're being performed in the clinic, to when this medication are being approved by the FDA and are being sent to the pharmacy shelf. Most medication, or when patient takes a medication, we help doctors. Pretty much that's the job. We help doctors to make informed decisions based on the fact before a doctor prescribes medication to a patient, the doctor looks at the data that has been captured from the research that was done to ensure that this medication is good enough, to ensure that this medication is going to treat this particular patient. So that's really the work of a clinical research professional. And if there's anyone out there who is looking to pivot into this career path, I'm your guy, right? I have over 19,000 followers on LinkedIn who has trusted me to provide content about clinical research. And I'm being ranked right now as one of the top 1% in the United States for clinical research content and as a creator. So if you need more information, I'm really out there to help out. I've also created a small community of clinical research professionals called Clinical Research Hub. That community is a platform where people join. People right now, about 50 or more people from around the world who are clinical professionals who are wanting to become clinical professionals, join that community to learn more about what clinical research is all about and the opportunities that are there for them. In addition to that, I also help people with their resumes on LinkedIn. So if you're a professional, maybe a clinical research professional, you're going to get a training. I will train you, prepare your resume, prepare your LinkedIn to make you look professional, and also help you out throughout the resume and of course interview preparation for your next opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, you stay with me a little bit, Rudolph. Thanks for just having that kind of brief. That was not all that we're going to get from you. I asked a few questions, and I know in the clinical research ecosystem, you mentioned you started as a medical assistant, but I remember you went after that as to become a research coordinator, and thereafter to become a clinical research associate, and now working in the different CROs and coordinating clinical trials. Can you just tell the audience who is a research coordinator and who is a clinical research associate, and end your presentation by saying the average salary of a research coordinator in the United States and the average salary of a clinical research associate in the United States?
Thank you so much for the extensive opportunity. So when I started my career as a medical assistant, I noticed that, as a matter of fact, when I came here, my aunt who paid my father and everything, she asked me to go and be a CNA. When I went in to go for the CNA opportunity, the administrator said, "You look like a smart guy. I don't think you're gonna like a CNA job. Do medical assistant." I said, okay, whatever. So I did a medical assistant. When I did, I worked as medical assistant for 6 months, and I saw the clinic was doing research. I was curious. I said, how was this research? What's this thing all about? So they said, "Oh, you can actually participate in research where we help to bring new medications." So I said, "Oh wow." That's when I got the opportunity to become a clinical research coordinator. So as a coordinator, what you're going to be doing, or your job, let me begin from your job. Your job as clinical research coordinator, you're going to help the doctor to screen patients, to see patients that are eligible for the study. Thank you so much, Dr. Cletus, again, for joining in. I know this is one of our brothers from South Africa. So as a clinical research coordinator, your main job is going to be able to help the doctors. You're going to be able to help doctors screen patients to make sure that the right patients get into the right study. You're going to help the doctor to make sure that the patients are eligible for the study. When the patient is eligible for the study, the doctor will help you to ensure that when the patient coming for the treatment, you help the patients get those treatments that are necessary for their disease, and of course you monitor them closely. As a matter of fact, I love when patients get into clinical research because they get closely monitored by the doctor. They see the doctor more often, they get more hands-on experience with the doctor, and the treatment that the patient gets during the clinical trial is completely free. So that's kind of how you get on the clinical research coordinator. Now your average salary for a clinical research coordinator is about $60,000 to $70,000. Again, depending on your state where you are, but that's the average of between $60,000 to $70,000. Now the position of a CRA, which is a clinical research associate, I usually say for those who have gained 2 to 3 years experience as a clinical research coordinator, that qualifies you to become a CRA. Now, for a CRA, you're not working for the doctor anymore. Now you've graduated. You move to work with the pharmaceutical companies. With the pharmaceutical, it can be a contract research organization or the pharmaceutical boys. I call them pharmaceutical boys because they have all the money. So the pharmaceutical companies will send you as a CRA. You have to go to the site. You go back to the doctor's office to now evaluate what the doctor is doing. Is the doctor following the protocol? Is the doctor doing the right thing? Are they following the good clinical practice to ensure that the study is being conducted? And that's your job as a clinical research associate. And your average salary for clinical research associate is about $100,000 to $120,000 for a start. Again, this depending on the state and different companies that you work in.
And I know there was a time I tried to get you for almost 2 months. It was difficult because you were from one airport to another. I hear clinical,
yes.
Yeah, they travel a lot. What is it about their job that makes them travel?
Thanks so much. I think for so clinical research associates travel a lot because when their job is remote, so clinical research associates jobs are remote. They travel from one part of the world. As a matter of fact, I've traveled to over about 18 states already just because I was a clinical research professional. Your flights are being paid by the pharmaceutical companies. They pay your flight, your hotel, your feeding, and everything. So the reason why they travel is because when they move from one site, from one hospital, from one doctor's office to the next, to be able to assess them that the medication that they are performing, the medication that the protocols that are being performed are actually accurate, that they're conducting the study effectively. Most importantly, is the safety of the patients. To want to ensure that the patient's safety is top priority. So that's the reason why clinical research associates travel a lot. Their job, the typical clinical research associates travel between 50 to 70% of their time are on the road. They fly from one part of the world to the country to the other for their job.
Great. Great. If you had loved being an air hostess and you missed that pathway, maybe clinical research associate is your way to go. But stay on a little bit, Rudolph. Now there are some other medical doctors I've seen that have traveled from Cameroon, come to the United States, but they just said they don't want to do residency and they just want to do something easy and they go into what they call medical liaison. Can you tell us about medical liaison and what's the average salary?
A medical liaison is somebody that can definitely be able to work. They call them MSL, medical liaison, medical science liaison. Yeah. So the medical science liaison, what they typically do is that they bring their medical expertise. They have MDs and PhDs. They bring their medical expertise to work with safety because primarily what they're really doing is they work primarily with top pharmaceutical companies. When pharmaceutical companies send these medical liaisons, one of the most important things they do is to confirm that the site is eligible. When they go to a doctor's office to ensure that the doctor want to get to the study, they evaluate the doctor's office based on their medical knowledge. Evaluate the doctor's office. Do they have the equipment for the study? Do they have the patient population for the study? Do they have the scientific background? Do they understand the objectives of the study? Now, if they do understand the objectives of the study and the expected outcome, and of course, they also evaluate if the doctor has had any FDA audits and what was the outcome of that audit. Now, if the doctor hasn't had any FDA audits, again, that's some of the different qualification factors. In addition to that, when they're able to get into the study, when they get the patient into the doctor into the study as a principal investigator, they will continuously monitor the doctor. Another pathway for them can become they call them medical monitors. Now, when they become medical monitors, they are then close working with the pharmaceutical companies and with the doctors to ensure that if there was a safety adverse event, for example, a patient dies in the study, the doctor at the site is freaking out. But the doctor at the site may easily say this death is caused by the medication. Now, the medical monitor, who is our physician from Cameroon, who says no, the medication did not cause the death of this patient. So there's usually that dialogue until when they come, because pharmaceutical companies do not want their medications they don't want the doctors to say the medication caused the death of a patient, because that, of course, would disqualify the medication, reduce their chance of approval within the FDA. So their goal is to ensure that they want to minimize risk as much as possible by speaking to the investigators to ensure they understand the investigator's perspective to reduce the risk of the patient as much as possible. But those are the major responsibilities of an MSL, which of course the qualification are by PhD or MDs from foreign country.
What's the average salary?
The average salary of an MSL makes about $180,000 to $200,000 per year.
$200,000 is how much in France CFA if someone can convert with current conversion? It's about 100 million, right?
About 100 million or more.
If dollar was 500. Okay, thank you. At least we've heard about that. But just to end with you, before I take some few questions in the hall, now when someone graduates from the CRA, because you're talking about the pathways, when someone now becomes a clinical trial site manager, tell us about that in just a few 1 minute and what that salary looks like and what is the requirement in terms of qualification.
So from the clinical path, the clinical research path will begin. You want to begin a career. I usually always begin from a site because it gives you a good understanding of the foundation. For the clinical trial manager, the clinical research coordinator to clinical research associate, then clinical trial manager. Clinical trial manager sometimes work at a site. In most cases, they work in a pharmaceutical company. Now, when they work in a pharmaceutical company, what they primarily doing is, in my previous position, I was a clinical trial manager. They oversee this activity of a CRA, but they also work closely to ensure that they have the right site. They work with the MSL, with the CRA to ensure that they have the right site, they have the right patients, and they have the right investigators who are working close for the study. The average salary for a CTM, which is a clinical trial manager, is about $140,000, $130,000 per year.
Great. Thank you very much, Rudolph, and thank you for your time and your expertise. This is supposed to be highlights because there's so much and we cannot expect him to tell us all the qualifications and the requirements. But what he's trying to say is these are other aspects of healthcare careers that you can get into in the diaspora. And I think if someone wants to get the footstep at the door, what's the minimum qualification, Rudolph, into this career?
A bachelor's degree is always nice. It could be a bachelor's degree from anywhere, from any sort of background. But
Yeah.
a bachelor's degree in health science is going to really close to the door. But a bachelor's degree is, by standard, will be a basic entry level criteria.
No, thank you very much. And we have Frank Ako, who has the hand up. Please, Frank, tell us where your name and where you're dialing in from and your question, please.
Hi, my name is Frank Ako. I'm dialing in from Las Vegas. This is one of the few meetings that I've attended. I wanted to say thank you for a great platform. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. I've hopped in once or two times. It's phenomenal. Rudolph, thank you so much. I'm actually a pharmacist by training, and I'm a medical science liaison as well. So once you started talking about being a CRA, I had raised my hand to say there are also opportunities in pharma to contribute as a clinical development, as a medical science liaison. The explanation of what a medical science liaison does, they do a lot of things depending on the industry that you work for and what stage of drug development they're in, whether it's early phase, late stage. Being able to coordinate with clinical development research as well as CROs to be able to be present for these sites and monitor and facilitate. But once the drug is already in clinical, it's already been approved and commercialized, there's a lot of other activities that the MSLs get involved with, which is really interfacing with healthcare professionals and optimizing how they use the drug or what they're doing in the field, gather those insights and bring it back to the company to be able to inform their strategies. That's all I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ako, for joining the session and for adding your voice, and congratulations for the wonderful job you're doing as an MSL. And we hope that we're going to engage more with you, and to also say that the town hall is a family. We help hold the hands of every member of the town hall, and so don't be surprised if somebody already copy your name and go to LinkedIn and saying, I am from the town hall, I know you from the town hall. Just accept that invitation and consider that we are a family and provide guidance to anybody that seeks your guidance for this profession.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to reach out to share some information as well. That way we could continue to work outside of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move to Eyengwa, and I think from there, Rudolph, you had a guest from South Africa that you personally invited. We might just want to get a word or two from him, but let's start with Eyengwa, if I'm pronouncing it, sorry.
Hello, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Eyengwa. I'm a medical doctor with over 5 years of experience in Cameroon. I'm also AfroMed Senior Researcher Fellow, cohort 2023. One of my passions is public health and research. I started my procedure from USA with the West certifications, and this is my second time to join the town hall. I always receive your emails, and I would say thank you to my colleague who typed me, and I was at the emergency and I stopped to come here and assist the sessions. I would like to know if Mr. Rudolph, that's it, am I right?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Rudolph, how can I join his group? And I want him to mentor me. That's one of my queries. I'm passionate about research and public health. And with my, at the end of this year, I will graduated with an advanced diploma in medical research in Zambia. AfroMed is a Zambian institution, Pan-African Zambian institutions. And I got the scholarship in 2023. So now, if I want to practice medical research, I've been a clinical researcher in USA. Am I going to restart or apply for residencies again? Or I have to make an equivalence of my diploma. So how can I do it? Because here in Cameroon, we don't have a specific institution dedicated for research. I applied several times to the Ministry of Science Education, but they didn't accept my candidature, no matter my experience and some articles I have in my own. I also like to connect with you on LinkedIn, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aingwa. Thanks for joining the town hall, and thank you for the amazing work
Sorry
you
for my lazy English. My first
doing.
language is French.
You're doing great, and I think we have a francophone town hall moderator. I'm sure she's still to join us, and she can articulate better than I will do. Just to say that we want to thank you for the work you're doing and making sure that your patient is safe when you get back to the emergency. If you stay on till the end, we have someone who is going to talk about pathway to public health, since you're also interested in public health. And you can as well just get to Rudolph Malley privately, and he's going to give you all the information you need. His name is on the screen, Rudolph Malley. You can just check him on LinkedIn and send him a friend request, and he's very generous to accept and connect with you. Rudolph, it's over to you to get to our South African guest. What's his name again?
Our friend from South Africa is Mr. Cletus. Yeah, Mr. Cletus is I think he's currently he's currently on. Mr. Cletus, are you there?
Great, Cletus. This is just how the connection works. Cletus has been following up Rudolph on LinkedIn and sees all his top content on clinical research, and they both connected. Cletus is also from Cameroon, but he has a lot of different research going on in South Africa, where his clinical research organization is the one monitoring those research and checking, make sure that they are conforming to the standards of good clinical practice. So hello, is he here? Okay, maybe we lost him. And for the sake of time, Muno, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Is Chobufo, Dr. Chobufo already around?
Hello?
Is around already?
Hello?
Good.
This is Cletus.
Oh, Cletus, we have you?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
okay, Cletus, we've been talking about clinical research. Dr. Muno, can you pin Cletus on the screen, please, if possible? Or we've been talking about clinical research career path in the diaspora, and we also know that being in South Africa is also being a diasporan, and so not just we've seen some salary range here in the United States, and I just wanted you to take a few minutes and paint a picture of the clinical research ecosystem in terms of career pathway in South Africa and some of the opportunities that are there.
All right, thank you so much. I missed your name. I think it's
Elvis.
That, yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Rodi, for connecting me to this platform. My name is Cletus B. I am the founding CEO of the Partnership for Clinical Trial Research. I'm based here in Johannesburg, but I do have clinical sites across the country, and I work with quite a number of research partners and participants and principal investigators, and we joining the clinical research industry has been a great challenge, and it's still a challenge in South Africa, being an industry which is termed an accidental career opportunity for many people. We are very excited to be part of the global change that is happening. And so when I got into the industry a few short years ago, having worked in different aspects of healthcare in South Africa, I worked for the Department of Health for many years, and I worked for the Nelson Mandela Foundation for about 9 years on a large-scale program on HIV care and treatment. I hold a background. I graduated from the Yale School of Public Health. I have a postgraduate in hospital management, and but clinical research really sounded well and sounded loud to me, and it's an area of healthcare which so many people are not accustomed to. Even the medical doctors and many other clinicians are not aware of such a fantastic area of healthcare delivery. So yes, the career pathway in South Africa is exciting. It is, you just basically have a degree, but in South Africa, most organizations, site management organizations and CROs would want you to at least have a science background. South Africa is a young economy. It is growing. It's very fast, and it needs people with a science background, and that's what they emphasize. We have what is called the South African Clinical Research Association, in which I'm a member. I play a very active role both with the South African Clinical Trial Registry, as well as, which is part of the South African Medical Research Council and the South African Clinical Research Association. We work, that is the pathway for which you could get through. But then as a founding CEO of the partnership, I do create opportunities for aspiring CRAs or whatever stage of clinical research you want to get into. I do try and give opportunities depending on what we have. Whatever studies we do have, I give that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ditah. Thanks a lot for accepting to be here. And you now see two important people to talk to if you want to do your career path into clinical research in the United States. Rudolph is your guy if you want to remain in Africa. Cletus is your guy in South Africa. Cletus, just one question. How much is the salary of a clinical research coordinator in South Africa and a CRA in South Africa? You can give the amount in francs CFA since we might not know the currency in South Africa or in dollars.
Okay. A study coordinator in South Africa would be an equivalent of 3 million a month.
Good. And a CRA?
And a CRA would be about 10 million.
Thank you very much, Cletus, and thank you, Rudolph. Once again, the clinical research market has a market size of the clinical research field has a market size of about 106 billion globally and about 1.8 billion in Africa. So, if you want to consider getting into this career, no, there is really it's a growing field with a really large market size. Well, I will transition now and hand over to Dr. Muno to introduce Dr. Ditah Chobufo, who is going to talk about pathway to becoming a physician in the United States, and this will be moderated by Dr. Kate.
Yeah, so thank you, Elvis. I think we do have a lot of physicians that are here. I've seen a lot of people who are radiologists. I've seen cardiologists who are locked in. I've seen myself being an oncologist. There are multiple other residents who are here. So we'll give Chobufo the chance. Chobufo is present. He's a cardiologist, and he's presently doing a fellowship in interventional cardiology. He also has a master's in public health. He worked in Cameroon for a long period of time, and he is a big mentor. I know he doesn't want to emphasize on this. He mentors young physicians on how to migrate into the US and also to do it safely. So I will not waste much time. I will hand over the mic to Dr. Ditah Chobufo. Over to you.
Dr. Mona, and good afternoon, good evening to every single person on this platform. And I feel very humbled being here and, being given some minutes to talk about this. This is something I'm so passionate about. And honestly, I think I'm just the voice of so many people because probably every physician in the US knows me for reaching out to them and requesting support for maybe someone I've been mentoring, just, putting in a word for them, providing a letter of recommendation, or advocating for them to get something in the system. So yeah, there are so many people on this platform who can personally relate to what I'm saying. I wouldn't call all of them by name, but please know I do acknowledge your input and everything as I go through this presentation. So why do I feel like I'm able to talk about this? Because I started this journey at least 14 years ago, and I've been doing it. I've personally written the exams. I've been through application cycles, many of them. I've been able to do a residency. I've been able to, teach students and residents on the service as well. And I've also been able to mentor and many physicians from Cameroon who are probably, maybe they are done with their journeys or they are still in the process. So this has really informed me in so much. So the first question is it possible to be trained in Cameroon and transition to the US and become a medical doctor or continue as a medical professional or a physician? And the answer is yes. I just started learning some Spanish. So you see, that's yes in Spanish. So yes, it is very possible. And what does it take? Honestly, it takes you making that decision. It's your conviction, it's your desire, it's the hunger, it's the drive, it's the thirst. And if you have this, then yes, you are there. And when is it best to start? The sooner you start, the better for you. Even before med school, if you're one of those guys who say, I want to pursue specialization in the US, then you can start looking at these things because it's gonna give you an advantage. While you're in medical school, even anytime during medical school, feel free to make up your mind. At the time you graduate or several years after graduation, you could still decide to make this decision. But it's never too late. But at times you may also make the decision at a very late time. But the sooner you start, the better for you. So USMLE, I really think if anyone is interested in the US, you know how this goes. We have a step 1, step 2. Often you start by getting your identification number, you get certified, apply for your exam, sit for step 1, step 2, get certified, apply for residency, hopefully you get a residency position. And in between, you could also do your USMLE step 3. And this puts you on the path of being recognized for your certificate as a physician in Cameroon to be recognized to the equivalence of a physician graduating out of med school in the US. And when you get to this stage, then you've earned the right to compete for those training positions. This applies to us. Sadly, when we are preparing for USMLE, we think it's a one-man show. You prepare in the hiding of your room, your classmates, your colleagues don't even know. But it's more about teamwork. This is really not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you need company, you need people to share resources. Some days you're down, you want some other people to be there to help you. And remember, your competitors are not those guys from Cameroon. It's the whole world. So those guys from Cameroon can only help you go further. And when you're a team, you can share resources, support each other in ways you may never realize. So please, don't do this in hiding. Are there resources? Yes, endless resources. If you have a phone, you have internet access, there are endless resources. Use the official website. There are some platforms, WhatsApp groups where you could join and discuss and share from the experiences of others. Be in touch with people who have gone before you. One mistake I see is, on the eve of applying for residency, that is when you reach out to people who don't know you yet, right? Because when you know you're going to do something, be in touch with those people. They know you for 3 years, and when you get to that point, you can introduce what you want. And that is really going to be very helpful for you. And never be shy to reach out. I've received endless messages, just like so many other people. And while I may not respond to every single message, a message which comes in requesting for something I can provide is the message I'll always respond to. And do your homework. If you start talking about USMLE and don't even know that there is a step 1, step 2, step, I seek it, often it just makes it difficult. You want to do your homework. What you can get elsewhere, just get it. So a few things is, how can I boost my chances? There are a few things I just want you to know as you prepare, so that, if you prepare and you maximize on this, you're going to up your chances of securing a position. Graduation timeline. The sooner you apply after graduation from med school, the better. You don't want to be told, oh, you graduated 10 years ago, so we don't even think you remember medicine. And one thing in the USA is there are medical doctors on practice without specialization. And while you may sit back in Cameroon and study and practice for 10 years, when you come here, they don't grasp that. They don't realize you were working as a physician, you might have done so much. They just think you're somebody who got out of med school, then spent 10 years doing something in the quarters, and now you're coming back. And they always have their doubts. So the sooner you do that, the better. And on your exams, I can't stress this enough. If the highest score is 280, that is what you go for. Often I talk to people and I'm like, what is your goal? They say 260. I'm like, what is the highest? 280. Why are you aiming for 260 if there's 280? Go for 280. Maybe you might fall short and land at 260, but you cannot sell yourself short by aiming for something lower than the maximum. And the higher your score, the better for you. And these are things that when you miss out on, you're not going to come back on. Because you pass the exam with a score of 200, they will never let you repeat it. So you cannot go back and improve your chances. So you don't want to take chances on things like this. You never want to fail this exam. You may fail, it's not the end of the world, but when you fail, you just made a difficult task even more difficult. So please, you really have to pay every attention you can. Talking about US clinical experience, if you have that and you have it on your application, it gives you an added advantage. But again, if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. Most of us didn't have it when we got here. Most of you can have it now if you're in the right places and you're talking to the right people. But I really don't think this is going to, determine what your future is. And also, you just want to be an all-around person. Somebody who participates in the community is somebody who is set for success. You come to town hall, you meet people who have gone through residency, they share their experiences with you. Even if you don't know them personally, these things are going to inform you on how you can also navigate. It's also going to grow your network so that you can use it. So don't just hide in your room and just say it and think you'll come out one day and the world will welcome you. What goes around comes around, so you want to be present. At times, you can go for a voluntary service. You may attend social gatherings. Whatever that takes, it prepares you for the future. When you go into residency, even at times, they want to know you're somebody who is sociable, who can relate with other cultures. And if you've never related with people out of your own small circle, people will have doubts on how you're going to perform, very well. So those are some things that can really help you. Again, we will not go into all the specifics, but what I want to tell you is on this platform, there are so many people who are willing to listen to you, who are willing to mentor you, who are willing to guide you, who are willing to put resources and even go to lengths that you may not imagine to help make your dream to become, a practicing physician in the US alive. On that note, I thank every single one, and we are open for questions on this platform and beyond.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
And before we move over to questions, I would love to hand over the mic to, so both of you can answer questions to Divine, who is presently a resident. And I just want to know from his perspective, how was the journey? What were the things that you can highlight? And what are the things you can do to monitor the young generation coming in? He's presently going to be a Hemong Fellow next year. So just want to hear your input, Divine.
Thank you, Dr. Muno. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here, and a happy new year to everybody. Yeah, I'm going to be an incoming fellow for CAM July, just about maybe 6-7 months down the road. Dr. Chobufo, thank you for the presentation, and I think he has said it very, very, very well and detailedly. So I will just add a little bit of what my senior had presented to become a physician in the US. So actually, I will start by defining some terms like FMG or IMG. What is the meaning of that? So that we start knowing that before you come to the US, you know, foreign medical doctor or international medical graduate, and who is considered to be one is somebody maybe if you did medical education out of the US, you know, and for you to be eligible to take the exams, you must have graduated from one of the schools that is recognized, and your school has to be affiliated to the World Medical Dictionary. That's the first step. Then for you to get into start your process, like he said, either you're in medical school and also maybe you just recently graduated or also had graduated from a medical school. So the process goes thus: you just have to go to the ECFMG website, which is the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates. So you have to apply for your identification number. And that number, you're going to use it till, in fact, in all your life, that everything you're going to do in the US. That's the first thing you have to do. You do the application, have that unique number that no other person has it. You use it until, in fact, the rest of time. Then after that, you have to create an account on that website so that you can monitor the status of your application. So after the opening of an account, you have to do a certification of identification, which is called the Form 186, and you have to notarize that and send to your school, then back to the ECFMG. Then going forward, you have to do, I think the fourth step is you complete the application now for step 1 and pay your fees. So having said that, I think that you highlight like what Dr. Chobufo said. We want to make sure that you avoid attempt of the exam, any of the exams, which is very, very important. But again, if it happens that there is some kind of failure, we can see it's like when you fall, you have to dust your body, then you start going again, you know. So attempt is something that if there's a way to avoid it is very important. Good scores is very, very important as well. And I think those are the two major. If you have good scores and no attempts, I can guarantee you that you're going to have interviews. And when you have more interviews, there is a likelihood that you're going to match whatever field you wish to apply. So residency is specialization in the US. So you have pediatrics, you have internal medicine, you have family medicine, you have surgery, you have OBGYN, and those specialties, radiology, they are very, very doable if you follow the guidance from the mentors. And I am sure everybody here as a doctor in the US, we have mentored people, we are still mentoring, and we are very open. Everybody's very open. If you have any problem, reach out to anybody so that we can see how we can help in any way that we can. So I think that's a brief introduction on how to get into the US for training of doctors. If you have any question, feel free to ask some open questions.
Yeah, over to the moderator, Dr. Kathy.
Yeah, thank you so much, and really great, Dr. Chobufo, for that really succinct presentation. It's amazing that your voice and your speed of delivery has not changed over this many years. Always pose, concise, and practical. Really, really amazing. And thank you, Divine, as well, for that really useful information. I think somebody's asking if there is any age limit, but before we go to questions there, Chobufo, when you presented yourself, we could see, yes, you're MD, you graduated from Cameroon, you've done an MPH, you've done an MBA. So how was the journey from Cameroon till when you started residency? I don't know, just really to throw more light into that and see how to fit in those different things, if it can inspire some people who are listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kate. And I remember Milan fondly, and I remember our days. So it's so fun to have you back here. Listen, and I'm happy you're asking me this question because, when Dr. Muna introduces me as a Chobufo cardiology and all of that, that is what people see. But what people don't see is how many failures behind that journey. How many times, I struggled, had challenges, thought of giving up, needed to change strategy, needed to maybe further develop plan B before ultimately being where I am. And it's been a humbling journey. Just like every other physician in Cameroon graduated, was posted by the government, worked there a couple of years. Then I ended up working with Doctors Without Borders, which was a major distraction to me as well. And I also had some family in the US who at least informed me of what USMLE was and what the prospects of doing residency in the US were. But at the time as well, I was also naive. I didn't listen to them. I had some golden chances before me I ignored, and I went looking for other stuff. But in the course of that, I ended up doing an MPH in Israel for a year, then continued working with Doctors Without Borders. And then I soon realized, that wasn't really going to take me into OH. So I said, okay, I needed to settle back on something that I can count on. So I came back to the US. But that said, behind what anyone may say, oh, maybe it's a successful story for me, I don't know. There are so many failures. There are so many times I almost gave up. There are times I was rejected. And there are times some people might have even said, I wouldn't make it, right? But you have to keep going. So, and that's why I say, how hungry are you? How thirsty are you? What is your drive? Are you so convinced, and is this something you really want? Because if you don't have those things, at some point you're gonna give up. And that is why, to me, it's very personal that any single person who wants to embark on this journey, I want to stand by them. And it doesn't just come down to non-monetary things. There are times I've put down maybe even financial sacrifices for people, some in huge amounts, some in very tiny amounts, just to make sure they move forward. Because I know what some of the challenges are. Telling a doctor in Cameroon to write USMLE, who is being paid by the government, say 250,000, it may take them 10 years to raise that money and do what they want to do. By the time they come to apply, they say they are all graduates. Not because they did anything wrong, they were just doing the right thing, but they didn't just have the resources. So these are all things we've seen, we're trying to work on, but again, it's not a straightforward path. You'll fall down, you'll be knocked over, you'll be pushed away, but you have to keep going.
Thank you so much. I mean, we've not spoken for quite a long time, but I get the waves from other people, and I do know that your journey has really been atypical. It hasn't been straightforward. Cameroon, right? The USMLE, get a position and match, and I'm sure you've gathered loads of experience in all that. So let's just dive into what you're doing at the moment. When Cameroonians or physicians in Cameroon usually hear about interventional cardiology, everybody's like, oh, excited. What is this really all about? What is like your day job as an interventional cardiologist?
Well, sadly, boy, to come to Cameroon today, I'll probably not be very useful. But I hope before I die will be more useful in Cameroon. And all through my training, I didn't even know what interventional cardiology was. I think I know that now we probably saw 3 EKGs before we graduated from Milan, so we really don't know. But anyways, for this year, I'm mainly in the lab, so we do procedures, and the simplest of them will probably be when you hear somebody has a heart attack, which means the blood flow to the heart muscle is blocked, and someone needs to go and open up that blood vessel. That is what we do, and often that is what I call the foundation of interventional cardiology. Then you can put that on the background of everything cardiology, but in that specific field, we would go further to do procedures in the heart, going in through your veins or your arteries with very tiny catheters, and trying to do a few things to help salvage your heart.
Thank you. And how many years would it take, someone at the beginning of their journey in the US, the start of training, probably from, I think, general internal medicine right up to the end, be, a consultant, interventional cardiologist?
Well, so this is my 7th year in training. 3 years internal medicine, 3 years cardiology, and now I'm doing 1 year of interventional cardiology. I could still go on, but I'm probably going to hang my boot.
Yeah, thank you. Really, I don't know if there was any other particular question, Elvis. I know you are the money guy, and how much does an interventional cardiologist make in the US? I'm not talking about you, Chobufo, but on average, how much do they make? I know it depends on the state and whatever.
Dr. Kate, I would have seen Mono so that we fire you if you did not ask that question.
I knew you wanted me to ask.
Well, again, like you said, it depends. But I would say most interventional cardiologists might not listen to you if you're not proposing a salary of upwards of 500,000 a year today.
Yeah, I remember seeing a funny video on social media. I'm sure many of you have seen that video of a young man running with bags of money and then, changing different medical professionals. And I think that interventional cardiologist was one of those where the person was almost falling to the ground. So that really makes sense. Mono, Elvis, I don't know if there's any other thing to talk.
Yeah, one question for Divine, and then let's move over to the public health field, which I would want Dr. Arnold to talk, and then you too, Kate. So going to Divine, what do you think is the most important? Meaning if someone migrates over to the US and comes over here, and what's the most important thing they need to do in order to get a residency? Apart from the scores and all of that, what's the most important thing?
Thank you, Dr. Muno. Thank you for that beautiful question. Like the question was like you becoming a doctor in the US. We just look at the big picture of the doctor, but we don't look at the struggle, the pathway to become one. So I think the first thing that, from my experience and maybe my other colleagues that we are together, the first thing that somebody need from Cameroon as a doctor when you're here, the first thing is support. Support, being moral, financial, you need to have that support, that baseline, that background of support. Then you have to contact those who are in front of you, like, those that maybe from back home or here, try to get in touch with them. Yes. Then the last that I think that you need to really, really work on as a doctor is networking. You need to have that networking. You need to build on your networking. You need to, because it's very, very important. You have good scores, you have everything, but at the end of the day, who you know matters a lot too as well, you know. So if you come, I mean, from the Cameroon or wherever as a doctor and you want to really integrate, there is really, really high need for you to get in touch with the Cameroon community, Cameroon physician community here in the US. Try to get in touch with them and know what to be done. I mean, know, you know, the next thing that has to be done for you to get your spot. But I think the baseline is if you have good scores, no attempt, and networking, then we guarantee you that you're going to have a spot. But networking is very, very big, very, very big, and a good mentor. And so to say, I want to thank everybody in this platform, Dr. Mono in particular as well. He's a very, very good mentor as well. So if you're aspiring to come to the US, that's one person that you have to contact directly, you know, so Dr. Chobufo as well. So we are here, but I think networking, Dr. Mono, I hope I answered your question. Networking is very, 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 very important.
Yeah, you answered my question. And my late dad used to say, what you know is important, but whom you know is more important. So it's everywhere. It's not about discrimination. You need to know, have the knowledge, and then you need to connect. So connect with Dr. Ditah Chobufo. He has a wonderful, here is not the platform, but he has a wonderful platform where he's helping physicians back home. So Elvis, let's move over to our next session. I think we have time on our side.
Yes, we have time on our side. Thank you very much. We've listened to the pathway to becoming a medical doctor in the United States and getting into residency. And we've even gone as far as listening from Dr. Divine, some of the other aspects that you have to consider in terms of specialization and all that. I've also heard about the money, which is mind-blowing. Okay, let's move a little bit now to the medical lab science before we go to public health. And in the medical lab domain, we know that when you trained in Cameroon, you either train as a lab technician or as a lab scientist. And I think it's not up to the 90s that Cameroon started actually training lab scientists with a bachelor's degree in lab sciences, and now with other master's degree in different fields like pathology, which I think Dr. Muno did pathology, a master's degree in pathology before coming to the United States. And so there's so many fields now in the lab science world in Cameroon. And we have these people as well who migrate to the United States, and when they come here, they feel like everyone is talking about nursing, everyone is talking about being a medical doctor. Very few people are talking about lab sciences. Kenji, what is the problem? Where should people go to, and what is the pathway?
Thank you so much, Elvis. I will always say, go where your calling is. For me, in my next world, I will still be in the lab. In my other next world, I will still be in the lab.
And before you continue, he's in one of the biggest lab in the United States. He is a lab manager at Stanford Health System in California. Kenji holds a lot in the lab world. He's a regular, so that's why I didn't introduce him.
So there are two things. When my students come here, I'm like, if you want to go for the money, you can go for the money. If you want to go for your profession, you can go for your profession. A lot of them will come and they'll be easily convinced to go do CNA, then start school again from scratch, go do nursing for another 4 years. So I'm like, okay, if you think nursing is going to pay you, you do nursing for 4 years, you jack up student loan, but your program that you did in Cameroon, that's what most people fail to understand. When you do the clinical lab science program in Cameroon and you come here, unlike the medical doctor route, you have nothing else to do. You are not going to no school. You are just writing your board exam directly because the curriculum in UB was structured based on the US system. So you don't need to take any class. I saw one already taking class for 1 year. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? You don't need to take any class. You just need to go take your ASCP board exam, and that is it. Once you pass your ASCP, that's American Society of Clinical Pathologists, you're already board certified as a clinical lab scientist. Then some states will require a license, like California, where I am, and that is it. You get into the lab, you know, most of them that I've mentored now have left IT. So a few left nursing that they were doing, and they are now in the lab. And it's not as if you'll be broke. In California alone, you know, averagely, you will make 6 figures, right? You have people making 160, 170,000 as clinical laboratory scientists. And again, it doesn't end there, right? Like for me, I did my PhD. Then, you know, so now I'm a medical laboratory director as well, board certified, right? And you can do your board certification in several fields, right? I'm board certified in micro. I'm taking another board certification in clinical immunology. And with board certification, that's a good thing. Once you are board certified in the US, be it a medical doctor who did clinical pathology residency or anatomic pathology residency, once you are board certified, you have 5 licenses. So what I actually do with my 5 licenses is that I mostly do consultancy with those 5 licenses. No clinical lab can start in the US without the license of a licensed medical lab director. So that's a side gig that you do. So I have like 4 labs, right? And I don't go to any of the labs. Everything I do is remote. They have a fee that they pay me every month for being, you know, on your license. They're using your license. Again, so I'm responsible for whatever is going on in the laboratory, right? I put in the systems there and I have my pay that they give me every month. I sign all the paperwork, make sure that, you know, they enroll in proficiency testing and all those things. And if you look at the medical lab director route, I'm more familiar in California, right? So you're talking anything between 180 to 320,000, right? Averagely, right, in a year, just depending on your qualification, right? If you came as a medical doctor, then you decide to do your residency in clinical pathology, that's another route, right? So it must not be cardiology. You can still do your residency in clinical pathology. You can still do your residency in clinical and anatomic pathology. Those are the people that make all the money, right? Because you are both certified in clinical and anatomic pathology. Then,
Kenji, sorry to interrupt. How much?
Sorry?
You said much money. How much?
We are talking about the 350s, right? Yeah, we are talking about the 350s. And again, it depends on where you find yourself. All right. I'm in an academic center, right? So if you're in another place, it may be different. And the good thing too is that for anatomic pathology, it's so lucrative because now we have digital pathology. So a lot of the pathologists don't even want to work in one particular place. They just want to consult somewhere. You know, they send them the slides, they review those slides, and you pay your consult, right, for reviewing those slides, especially those that did anatomic pathology. But then if you did the PhD route, right, which, you know, most people, you know, I always tell them, yeah, if you have a PhD, that's great. I have a lot of people that I'm mentoring. If you did strict academic PhD, after your PhD, you can do a fellowship. It's the PhD equivalent of residency for MDs. And these fellowship programs are everywhere. Mayo Clinic has it. We have it at Stanford. So you can do your fellowship in clinical microbiology. That's going to be a 2-year training. Once you do that 2-year training, it preps you for the clinical route because probably your PhD was all academic. Once you do that fellowship, you are now eligible to sit in for the board exam. Because again, not everybody can sit for that board exam. I was able to sit for the board exam with my PhD because I did my undergraduate studies in clinical laboratory sciences. So you can do your board in clinical micro, you can do your board in clinical hematology, any field that you want to think of, right? I think that's what it's called medicine biologist in Cameroon, right? Again, but at this stage is in the PhD route. So most often I tell people, hey, my passion, if you really ask what I really wanted to do, I wanted to stay me Pew Research. When I finished, I had an associate professor position proposed to me. That was like, if I stay Pew Research, I mean, all respect to researchers, I'm going to be broke. That's what I told myself. Because again, in the US, research in my field is more of a passion. It doesn't pay the bills. But then when I decided to transition into the clinical medical director route, I found myself in an academic center. I'm still publishing like crazy, right? Because we do work, because it's an academic center, and we are also, you know, able to publish. And it doesn't end there. There are still a lot of roles, be it in the industry, right? You can be medical liaison as well for a diagnostic company. It could be CEFIT, right? You can be scientific affairs director with your MD degree directly from Cameroon. Right, I have a few people just with their MD degree. They're already scientific affairs director in several companies. And again, not forgetting the public health route, right? Doing consultancy, right, for like WHO and all those things, because WHO is not all about epidemiology, right? You have epidemiology and you also have the laboratory section of it. That's one thing most people fail to understand. And there are just a lot of opportunities there.
Good. Thank you so much, Kenji. And Muna, if you don't mind to pin Dr. Terence Akwa from Canada for a question. He's also another trusted authority and in the laboratory world. Hello, Dr. Terence, and welcome. You're a regular face in the Cameroon Town Hall. Thank you for always contributing to the Town Hall. what I know, Donald Trump is asking Canada to be the 51st state in the United States, but that's not what we are talking about. It's the story Kenji is saying holding true for Canada. I know you are in Canada. If somebody had a bachelor's degree in medical lab sciences in UB and worked at St. Louis Clinic for 6 months and found himself or herself in Canada, what would the story be like?
Okay, thank you everyone and Happy New Year to everyone. It's good to be here again after a very long time due to some other duties. And thank you, Kenji, for providing that very succinct and detailed summary, which provides most of the information I was going to highlight. And to answer your question, the answer is yes. So Canada is almost the same as the US. Of course, the opportunities are more in the US than in Canada. So personally, I would say when I came to Canada, I actually lived in the US before. Before I came to Canada, I had my PhD. Lived in the US, I was in the research. And just like Kenji mentioned, if you want to do research, the synonym is that you want to be broke. So that's it. And then I relocated to Canada. And I didn't go.
I'm just sorry to interrupt. Broke is relative here. Okay. When they say broke, you shouldn't, for those in Cameroon, don't listen to this word broke. Broke is relative here in the US because they are comparing it with other fees. Because we left from clinical research where we heard some also juicy salaries, which to someone in Cameroon is not broke. So when
and that's clinical. Sorry, and that's that the word clinical is very important there.
Yes.
The word clinical is very, very important. It's a key word there. So that's because you are offering a service.
Good.
And anything service is where the money is. Let me put it that way. All right, so let me go back. So in Canada, basically, if you did your undergrad degree, if you had a degree in medical laboratory science, I got my degree in medical laboratory science. I always like to say this because it's the only time I can boast. I was the first batch of the Faculty of Health Sciences, the University of Boya. So we started the medical laboratory science program in Boya. So I can say we were the first to obtain a bachelor's degree in medical laboratory sciences. So I came to Canada. I did not know any of that. But now I have learned and I've directed some people. So there is a clinical laboratory science association in Canada, CSMLS, something like that. And so when you come, the thing with Canada is that unlike the US, in Canada, you have to submit your documents for evaluation by this organization. They will evaluate your credentials, and when evaluating your credentials, they do ask for the details of the course outlines to know exactly what you did, to see if there are any gaps. And if there are any gaps, in some cases, they do send you back to school to do maybe a 6 months or a 1 year program. So some colleges in Canada, one of them, Anderson College in Toronto, another one, Mekina College, they do have these bridging programs, not only for people from Cameroon, but worldwide. So these are for internationally trained medical laboratory scientists. And so once you do these bridging programs, you can now write a certification examination and become a clinical laboratory scientist or a medical laboratory scientist. I did not do that. When I left Cameroon, I spent some time in Europe, so I did a PhD. I came to Canada with a PhD, and I spent some years in the US doing postdoc. And with postdoc, my hair is black like this because it's dyed. You get gray hair. For those you are doing research and thinking every day, but with to be fair and to just what Elvis mentioned, very little money in quotes, because of course, depending on what you are looking for. So eventually, I did not know at that time that there is actually a clinical route to get back into the clinic, into the medical laboratory with a PhD. So with this route, I think Kenji started talk about that. With this, you don't need any previous experience. If you have previous experience as a medical laboratory scientist, that is good. But if you don't have, that is good. So if you did anything like microbiology, immunology, biochemistry, I am a clinical biochemist here in Canada, biochemistry, molecular biology, then you can enroll in, you could find one of these fellowship programs in either clinical medical, clinical microbiology, clinical biochemistry, or in the US it's called clinical clinical chemistry, clinical laboratory immunology. You also have immunogenetics and HLA, which is also for transplantation medicine. And then you have for molecular biology. And in molecular biology, there are actually 3 specialties. So you have clinical biochemical genetics, so the people involved in inborn errors of metabolism. You have the people who do pure molecular biology. So I think that is where Kenji is a specialist. So they do all the sequencing, the mutation, the detection of everything. And then you have the other third one, which is clinical laboratory cytogenetics. So all the chromosomal abnormalities. So for those ones, so once you do that one, so now you are, like Kenji mentioned, now you have found your clinical route. So the PhD version of residency. So they call that fellowship. And after that, you in the US for chemistry, which I specialize, so you could become the director of the clinical laboratory. That is usually after you do pass your certification examinations. And
Great.
in Canada, we do have the Canadian Academy of Clinical Biochemistry. So you also do have to write and pass the examinations. The good thing with Canada and the US is that if you train in Canada, all you need to do is to challenge the US exams and vice versa. And I think even in the UK, people who have trained in the UK can challenge the exams in Canada and the US as well. And it's the same case as well for people who have trained in Canada and the US. If you want to go and work in the UK, you have to enroll, because in the UK, it's a regulated profession. You register and then you write the exams and get, I think, the diploma of the fellow of the UK clinical pathology, something like that. I don't have the full the meaning of the full acronym.
Thank you very much for this really in-depth explanation. You've added your voice to Kenji and
and just to highlight, if you trained in if you had a PhD in Africa as well, anywhere in the world, you could always come and pursue opportunities here in this field. All you need to do, just like 3 of our previous speakers mentioned, is don't give up, networking, and mentorship. Never give up, because I want to reiterate this, because many people, especially from Cameroon, I don't want to say some of our people are lazy. They will contact you once, they apply once, especially in Canada where the opportunities are limited. They don't get into a program, they give up. But I have noticed that Nigerians in particular are very resilient. These guys don't give you a chance to breathe. And in the US programs in chemistry and maybe microbiology in the past 2 years, you would see so many Nigerians there. And the challenge and the difficulty we sometimes face is that these programs are not advertised. So you could live somewhere, the program is just by your nose, and you don't even know that there is that kind of a program. So always talk to people, ask for opportunity. That is why I sincerely appreciate the town hall for this opportunity, and hopefully people will listen and contact any of us. You can contact the town hall, or you could contact me. Kenji is there, and there are other people.
Great. Thank you very much. And you said something, I always say, aunties and uncles in the village don't know anything about postdoc. They care if you send them some money for their problems, right? So sometimes it's good to be smart as well. But Muno, if you don't mind to bring back Kenji on spot, let me put on my entrepreneurial hat on. Kenji, I remember, in the past, you've been infected with some entrepreneurial spirits by so many conversations we have in the background. Now, you guys have talked about working. What about owning a practice and owning a lab or owning a practice? Can you say something about being an entrepreneur in this space?
Yeah, and again, that's the thing that they will never teach you in school. And I think it is deliberate, just so that when you finish, you work for the rich people, you continue to work for them and work for them. And once you're working for them, they give you enough work that you don't even have time to think about starting your own practice. I own a consultancy business, right? And I consult for several hospitals and other organizations as well. It took me a lot of guts to be able to start it. It took me a lot of guts to be able to break from that routine. Yeah, I still keep, my job, but again, at some point, if I decide that I just want to stay just with my consultancy, I think I'll be very comfortable. I think it's just that very last part to be like, you know what, let me just say goodbye to corporate America and just be fully independent, right? I'm almost at that point. Now, I would say for laboratory, that is the easiest and cheapest route to have your consultancy. Starting a laboratory is not easy. Again, I just want to say COVID was an outlier. We had a lot of laboratories that popped up. A lot of people made money. And when I look at all the time, I look at myself, I'm like, I was extremely very stupid, right? Consulting for a lot of people that were making money for something that I could just start mine. And all is just because I didn't have that courage to be able to say that, let me just go for it. During COVID, all you needed was just one thermocycler, which could cost you probably about maybe $60,000 to $70,000. And I have people, especially the Indians, they learn this very fast. A lot of them that they know nothing about laboratories, that made money that have gone back to India and that they'll be very rich for the rest of their life. So starting a lab in America, there are some challenges that really comes with it as well, especially dealing with the so-called insurance. That is usually where the biggest headache comes. And in California, where I've tried it like twice and I haven't pushed forward to it, that's one of the big things, right? Getting into the insurance network in such a way that you can get reimbursement. That is where the problem comes in. But again, making use of other firms that can be able to enable you get that reimbursement is one step further that you can do. But again, trying to identify your niche as to what is it that you want to really service, because you already have the big labs, Quest and all the like, right? That are already, taking everything. But then what can you offer? And one of the routes that one of my laboratories had used was offering services that people can actually pay out of pocket. For example, we can send you a kit to the house in the house that you can just collect your saliva by yourself. Then you send it to the lab and they run a bunch of tests for you. Or just send you a kit that you can just prick your finger and you send the blood spot and they do a lot of testing for you. And wellness check, it is something that is it is selling now. Micronutrients, right? Using mass spectrometry and all those things. So yes, starting a business, it is very, very possible. But one thing is you need to be ready to fail, because I've failed several times, Elvis. I've pumped in money and I've lost, right? And another thing too is laboratory informatics, right? That is something that we are trying to explore, to get into laboratory softwares, laboratory management systems and all those things. So there are several versions, right, that you can get into. Another thing too is you can decide to just do assay development, right? Like converting most of your PhD, like that's what I started doing since I did a lot of asset development for my PhD, trying to see how you can convert what you did for your PhD into a product. So most of the students, when they reach out to me from Cameroon on a PhD research project, I'm like, just think about after PhD, what can you do with what you're doing? If you go in for a product, for example, you develop a saliva test for malaria, something that we're working on. That is a product that you can have in the long run that you can, you can intend patent it, right, to a company, then you start making money, right? And also one thing that's gained popularity as well is the lab is phasing away from the old school culture of micro, right? Like now I have 3 of my labs. We no longer do urine culture. Everything has moved to PCR, right? Plus all the resistant markers. So instead of waiting, 3 days for your result, everything is available within 24 hours, right? Including the ID of the pathogen and the resistant markers. Now I have this guy who actually developed one of those PCR tests. He's stinkingly rich. And all it just takes is just work on the primers. Developing primers is really nothing. So that's another line of business that even you don't even need a license to be able to do that. If you just did your straight PhD biochemistry in the University of Yaoundé, and you know how to design primers, you know how to optimize assay, you develop your assay, then you get a bunch of marketers, and they can proceed with that. But again, you have to learn how to be resilient. You have to learn how to pick up yourself when you fail.
Thank you very much, Kenji. I'm really happy that you're able to answer this question really the way I expected. Thanks so much. Before we transition into two last fields, I will going to be very brief with them because there are things that are, we have the best of experts that will simplify it for you. We have Oku, who has been having their hand up for a question. Oku, please say where you are and ask your question.
Thank you very much. A very good evening and good afternoon to all of you. I want to thank the coordinators and those who are doing a great job, Dr. Evis and Dr. Mono. I am a medical doctor, a Cameroonian practicing in Uganda. I have a question for those in the US regarding the USMLE. There is a new pathway which is coming up in some states like Tennessee, and I think Wisconsin, about those who have done a postgraduate like residency, maybe in surgery, anesthesiology. They have a path which they can take to practice in the US after taking the steps and doing some fellowship program. So I don't know how plausible that is. I would like to have more idea about it and see if it's something to work on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oko, and hope you are doing great in Uganda. Thank you for joining the town hall, and it's a place you can always connect. We already passed a space for residency, but one of the things we are very happy is that we have those who did the presentation here. We have Dr. Ditah Chobufo, and we have Divine Array. They are still right here. You can pin them in the message and get their contact and have this conversation with them, and they will be able to provide you with information that will help you to make a decision as to your next step, okay? So we can give the opportunity for other people who are not in the residency to get information into our next part of the presentation, which is going to be public health. Sometimes back in Cameroon, there was a trend where many medical doctors, after practicing for a year, were all rushing into having an MPH and leaving clinical practice to go work with a non-profit organization because that's where the money was. And so public health became a very trending master's degree for medical doctors immediately after they left school, and very juicy jobs with the UN, with the WHO, USAID, and all that. But then the story becomes different when they make the decision to travel to the United States, and they find that it's not the same story like back in Cameroon. Then frustration sets in. Then some start thinking about going back to clinical practice and all that. A lot of people with this kind of testimony. But today we have Dr. Odana Arnold, who is going to be talking to us about the pathways in public health. And I'll hand over to Dr. Kate to as well moderate this session with his experience, having navigated also those different arenas. Over to you, Dr. Arnold, and thank you for taking part in the town hall despite your busy schedule.
Thank you, Elvis. It's so wonderful to see all these faces, some faces that I didn't see since last year. Glad to see you all. Dr. Mono, my good friend, Dr. Chobufo, my man, Dr. Ari, Divine, GC. Nice to see you again after a very, very long time. We get to feel your presence in the social media spaces, but not every time we get to see you. So happy to be here today. So I'm going to be brief. I promise. So moving to the US to do public health, I would say there are two paths principally that you can pursue. If you're coming to the US to do public health and you're already a medical doctor, you have programs in the US that offer the 1-year MPH, so Masters in Public Health. But for those who are not medical doctors or who do not have an prior experience in public health. You have public health programs that offer MSPH, so Master's Science in Public Health. And I'm saying that because if you do have an MD degree, you're able to go into like an MPH program. You're typically 1 year. But if you have, let's say, a bachelor's degree in any of the either scientific fields or in alternate social fields, you are able to do like an MSPH. Those are options that are open to you. But things you have to know before moving here is that I usually say give yourself a timeline of a good timeline to prep yourself. If you're out of Cameroon and coming here to do Masters in Public Health, a good timeline is 1 year before that final date of application. You have to give yourself those good timelines. Please research about the programs, what are their specificities, what they want. Make sure you get your recommendation letters, from people who have been in the field before. Get advice, network. I've seen that word coming up. If there's one field where you end up in matters, isn't it? Or where network determines where you will end up in this public health. It is so crucial. I have seen the difference between people having instantly being placed in a very nice, having a very nice job as soon as they graduate versus people who have to wait 3-6 months before they find something. So that's one thing you want to do early enough. You want to make sure. Usually, you have the Council of CEPH, CEPH. You have public health schools in the United States that are accredited. So you have to make sure that when you want to apply for public health, look at that list. Make sure that the university you're applying to has this CEPH accreditation, and all these CEPH accredited public health schools. The application portal, you have one application portal is similar a little bit to what is done for residency, one portal to get in. It's called SOFAS. So if you apply to SOFAS, you are able to feed in all the different requirements. Now, each program is going to have 1 or 2 differences. You have to pay attention to those extra things they are asking. But common things will be language proficiency testing. Make sure that you know, and you have you've added that you've gone past that. Another thing, make sure if you want things like GRE, make sure that you have looked into that. If you need a GRE, some do not need it. Some of them say if you have it, it strengthens your. And one thing we really say, you can get into any big name. One thing I want you to know, you can get into any big name of public health. You can get into Harvard, you can get into Emory, you can get into Johns Hopkins, you can get into the one in North Carolina.
Chapel Hill.
Yes, you can get into Chapel Hill, you can get into the one in California, UCSF, you can get into any of those big names. So don't sell yourself short. I heard Dr. Chobufo say that today. I'm telling you the same thing. Don't sell yourself short when you're applying to this program. Another key thing you want to look into very carefully, who are those offering scholarships. Make sure you research on those who are offering scholarships and how much are they able to cover? Are they able to give you a full scholarship? Are they able to give you a partial scholarship? All those things you want to know. And there are many scholarship opportunities that are out there, especially for women. You have some schools like now, a school like Johns Hopkins has a dedicated fund that was provided by this billionaire. You know, the school is
Bloomberg.
called Bloomberg. Yes, it's called the Bloomberg School of Public Health. So he gave a big dotation. You know, unfortunately for me, he gave the dotation when I was graduating, so I didn't get to benefit from it. But no, because I know people have come behind us, and it's easier for them to have scholarships. So know of these things, make your application watertight, airtight, so that you can apply for these things in time. So also a place like Harvard does offer scholarships. Like, you know, typically they give a scholarship, it's able to cover half to 2/3 of your total tuition. So these are things that you want to know. I want to look for extra sources of course. Then now, when you get into the field of public health itself, public health is very vast. It's like an ocean. Anyone, whether you have a medical background or not, you can find your niche in public health. If you are a quantitative person, you can find your niche in public health. If you're a qualitative person, you can find your niche in public health. Because public health is very diverse. So once you're done, you have options. You know, the very common ones are becoming an epidemiologist. You can be a public health researcher. You can finish and go into to become an epidemiologist. So many different organizations out there recruit epidemiologists. So if you're a quantitative person, that's a good route for you. You can be a biostatistician, especially if you have like a math background or economics background or something like that. You can go on to be a biostatistician. You can be a health policy analyst, or you can be, an analyst in different capacities. So those are, and then you can go into global health, you know, and the global health is very, very, very diverse, very vast. You have all these organizations that are looking for people who have graduated with an MPH. You can go further to get your PhD. So there are two things. So you can go further to have your PhD, you can go further to have your DRPH. And each of these degrees, they're terminal degrees, but they each have specificities. So these are all options that you have in the field of public health. And before I'm asked what are the salary ranges, let's say if you graduated with an MPH and you are fresh and taking up, you know, entry salary for, let's say, for an epidemiologist would be around 70 to 80 or to 90, depending on which organization you are working for. And as you get experience, that will go higher. So you can move after you have about 2-3 years of experience. You can move to a higher level and be in the lower 6 figures. So that's possible. If you move on to get your PhD in public health, I know people, you can continue to work in organizations, global health organizations, pharma. You can go into pharma, you can work with pharma. And there you will definitely be in the 6 figures. I know my friends who have graduated, who are working in the space of, who are epidemiologists, who are biostatisticians, who work with pharmacoepidemiologists, and in advanced health policy analysts. You'll be in 6 figures. If you go into DRPH, obviously it has a more health leadership. It has a more health leadership flavor to it. So these are people who are looking to work in places like CDC, WHO, Muchi, all these places. So you have all of these opportunities that open up to you if you chose to do public health. So I promise to keep it short.
Good. So let me take over the moderation because I want to put Dr. Kate at the spotlight. So Dr. Kate, I know you had to moderate this, but you are a physician scientist, you are a public health scientist, and you're presently in the UK, you're presently in the position of the experience of public health, both home, abroad, and have a PhD. I want you to give us the perspective and the opportunities that are found in the UK and the pathway. I know I took over this. I'm sorry that I had to put you on the spotlight. Then we'll go to questions and answers, and you and Arnold can answer questions.
So it's crazy that you asked that question. So this is my concept of public health, that if you want to do public health, you should look at it in three ways. You'll not see this in any book. You can do public health too, and then you want to deploy whatever you do in public health within the space of research. That is what I do. You may want to deploy in interventions and programs. That's the classical thing most people who do public health in Cameroon and in most African nations would want to go into. HIV control programs like my man Arnold was doing back when he was in Cameroon, malaria vaccination and all those programs. And also the other aspect where you want to deploy skills in public health would be around management, leadership, health financing, health administration. So look at it in those three ways. I may not talk much about options for public health in the UK, but it's really similar. It's the classic. For example, if you leave Cameroon and you come to the UK, many people will come through scholarships to want to get to do an MPH. And most schools will still call it an MPH here in the UK. And after your MPH, most likely many people would go and work in organizations. So that is usually the best route that many people follow. So after MPH, organizations, or after MPH, go into teaching and lectureship. And those organizations are quite varied, because if you're in the UK, it means you may be open to getting jobs in other organizations, which may not necessarily be in the UK, but in other European organizations. We have Cameroonians who have come to the UK, they've done their MPH, and they are now working in other countries, Brussels, Geneva, with lots of different organizations, WHO, and some of these jobs also may be remote. I know people who are, for example, working for WHO who are based in London or based in the UK. So those opportunities are there. And, in the UK, probably as well as in the US, MPH would be 1 year. In some schools, it can go as much as 15 months or 18 months. But so that is usually what you would see in terms of the pathway. Now in the UK, which it will be a question which I'm going to ask Arnold and you guys in the US, there is still the old traditional pathway of public health residency as well. There is still that, old traditional, and we still have it in Cameroon as well. As you said, I did the old classical public health residency program, which I guess exists in the UK. I stand to be corrected, for 2 years, something preventive, public health preventive medicine program. In the UK, I think it's still 5 years. And through that program, you become a public health consultant, and you can deploy your activity as a public health consultant, either maybe with Public Health UK or any other organization, or maybe work with the NHS and things like that. So those are some of the pathways that do exist, and I don't know if there are any other questions. So
yeah, in the US, you still have it. We do have preventive medicine and public health residency, which is a 3-year program. And if you're doing it in most academic centers, you get to do an MPH also if you don't have one. And they would prefer MPH candidates in some of the programs, but you also have an opportunity to get an MPH while you're doing your residency if you're a physician. Arnold may add, but Arnold, I have a question. Your background, this is now, you're the one linking clinical medicine and public health. Your background, I did a master's in public health too, but your background, you came here, you were the coordinator, HIV coordinator, you were our boss back home. Multiple coordinators of multiple HIV, you were the director of multiple regional coordinators. Did that help you in getting your admissions into Johns Hopkins, into Emory. I know you got admissions into very prestigious schools. And the question to Kathy is, when you did your residency, did that help you also in getting admissions for your PhD in the prestigious schools in the UK, which you trained? So both of you, I just want to know if those experiences were helpful or not.
Absolutely spot on. A school like Hopkins, loves people who have been in, that had public health experience, and especially public health experience in leadership roles. They really like that when they're reviewing your application. And so if you are able to provide that in your application, I remember the first year I applied, and which is one of the things why I say you should give yourself time when you are preparing to apply. So my former school, which I'm not going to mention, was not able to give me one of my documents on time. So, and however, I kept getting emails from Hopkins because they really wanted me to be there. So they wrote to me 3 times on each of the deadlines. They're like, we really need you to be there, but there's one element that is missing from your application. 3 different deadlines. I extended my deadline until the final day before they had to publish the list. And that was because they had seen that experience. And you should be able to if you have the intention to go into public health, you want to get into any of these big schools, that's what they are looking for. And I was coordinator for HIV across 3 regional coordinator for HIV across 3 regions. I started in the West region, then I went to the South region, and then I ended up Adamawa region, and that really strengthened my application. And those are the kind of people that they also look for to give scholarships, because I analyzed like the profile of those who were receiving this. For example, at Hopkins, they have what they call summer scholar. If you look at the profile of people who summer scholarship is awarded to, it's usually people who have had a leadership role in any kind of organization within the public health sphere. It could be anything. I worked in the field of HIV. I know people who had community outreach programs, even personal initiatives. That also, yes, there was one of us who is an internist now here in the US. He was a summer scholar, but his own application was strengthened by the fact that he had personal community outreach. He had a community outreach program which he used to strengthen his application. So you should be able to sell yourself pretty good with that. And
Okay.
That's what
Over to Dr. Kathy. Then I have a last question for Arnold before we move over to nursing.
So, yes, so I completed the 4-year public health residency training program back in Milan. I did that on purpose because many people would usually ask, but man, you would have gone to do an MPH directly, somewhere. So, well, my reasons are probably different, but so within that space of time, while I was doing that program, then I got my PhD fellowship in the UK. So it was almost an overlap at one point for 2 years, but I was able to handle by some force of magic or nature, one way or the other. And the transition went, smoothly from my program in Cameroon. Then obviously COVID was a big because I had to be on the ground to do research in Cameroon and in Uganda, and then completed the PhD. Currently doing a research fellowship with the NIHR, and so that really helped a lot. The fact that I had done a master's and like a separate master's of science, and that I was in residency training and doing research and publishing. That helped my selection into the NIHR PhD program, which was very competitive because they needed one PhD position at the time in the University of Exeter for this diabetes program. And they were looking for candidates from Africa as a whole. And ended up, I think, going for interview, 9 of us, and I was selected for the PhD program. So, but the fact that I was already active within that space, the fact that I already had a master's, the fact that I was already doing some diabetes research with some of the mentors back in Cameroon, which you all know here, the fact that I had publications, multiple publications, as a result of those activities and some of the work which we did back in Cameroon. I remember the time in Bafoussam, starting a diabetes clinic, showing those aspects of leadership, I think are very key aspects that any recruiter wants to see in anybody who wants to venture into public health. You should be able to demonstrate that you are not just sitting on your laptop trying to write a good CV, but what do you bring in terms of your commitment, maybe to community, maybe to research, maybe to academics. Those things are very vital for anyone who wants to do or who wants to venture into public health. And as Arnold said it, and most other people said it on this platform, some of the things that we were never taught in school is how to build relations and network. Because you can come out fresh with an MPH, but if you know the right people, you speak to the right people, you are catapulted to, stratospherically to somewhere that you could never imagine, even as a fresh graduate. So public health is a space of network. You know me, I know you. And as our previous prime minister would usually say, you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Good. One last question before moving. This question is to you, Arnold. Transitioning from public health, I know you worked as a public health physician in the US, and unfortunately, one of our moderators could not make it here. I hope he was here, Brian. You worked as a public health physician with the US, with the CDC, transitioning to clinical medicine, becoming an internist. Now you're a HemOnc fellow. Is there an advantage of your public health degree? Do you see that as an advantage? Be brief, just wanted to know.
Absolutely. The way I see the world compared to the way a purely trained clinician sees what is different. The public health training I've had and the way it has taught me to see things globally, even now, just even in my clinical interactions day to day, when I manage or take care of a patient, I'm seeing beyond his hospital stay. I am seeing things that could be done further down the road to limit some things from happening. So the way public health brings your mind is that it widens your scope of thinking and it makes you to see. We usually talk about holistic views. There's nothing that gives you holistic views than when you have had your mind trained by public health and you have worked in public health. Just to recap, my public health journey in the United States after having my MPH, I worked with the cancer branch of North Carolina. So it allowed me to see how you increase, for example, screening uptake in a country like the US, where some people are living in underserved communities. People don't have insurance. How do you get those women to be able to get their mammograms? How do you get them to be able to get MRIs when they need them? And all those things. It opened my eyes to the world of patient navigation, which is now useful, and I can translate when, in my oncology practice or fellowship that I'm doing now. So it becomes very useful. After my stint at the cancer branch of North Carolina, I did a short consultancy with WHO, just to add, what Dr. Kate was saying right now. That's how public health can be versatile. it was a remote position working with WHO for COVID response. And then after that, I worked with the Task Force for Global Health. It is an organization that works very closely with the CDC. You might not know of that organization until you look it up, and then you see how much they are doing. It's a name that is not known, but they are doing so much because they do a lot through the CDC, so you may not have heard of them directly. But those are all things that you can do with your public health. And then when you come now, you transition to clinical medicine. Bring that passion, because it will help you to see things globally and to want to help your patients in a more global dynamic than just staying focused with your clinical encounters.
Wow. Thank you very much. For the sake of time, we'll move over. We cannot close the session without talking about nursing. I think we would have another session where we'll talk about pharmacists, we'll talk about the dentistry profession, we will talk about other professions that exist that we have not talked about in the healthcare field. I think this is a big opportunity that we're creating going forward. So I would love to introduce our Dr. Emanuela Onana. She's a nurse practitioner. And also, I want her to tell us her journey. The husband was just from talking, her journey into the field of nursing, because nursing is a very important field. And I want her to tell us the journey and what it takes for those who are aspiring to be nurses here in the US. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Dr. Kenny. And it's such an opportunity and a blessing to be amongst great minds. Thank you for this opportunity. Nursing, like I usually tell people, it's such a vast field. And again, I heard Dr. Kenji at some point mention about passion. It's one of those things that I tell people that don't just get into it for the money, but because of the passion that you have for nursing. It's true, there's money in nursing, but don't only get in it for the money, because you will get burnt out very quick. When I moved to the US, I came in here a little bit very young, so I wanted something that could, I was looking for something that could give me a quicker independence. And somebody had mentioned to me about nursing. At the time when I got into nursing, I didn't know a whole lot of what I know now, if I were to advise my younger self. But nursing baseline, if you decide to come in, there's a whole lot of different routes that you can do to get a BSN in nursing. Some people come in and start as a CNA, which means certified nursing assistant. It takes 6 weeks to get your CNA degree. You can do CNA to LPN, which is licensed vocational or not licensed practicing nurse. And then LPN to RN, which is registered nurse. Or you can decide to go through a 4-year college and and get a BSN. But to do the BSN, you will need a prior 2 years of prerequisites. So you do general studies, science subjects and all the good stuff, and then you apply to go into a nursing program. Over the years, nursing has become so competitive that most schools, you don't just get into their program, you have to actually write, I believe they call it, give me a second, it's been too many years since I wrote that. It's called, I think it's TEAS. So you have to write the TEAS exam, and depending on your scores on the TEAS, it will determine, how soon you can get into a nursing program, because like I said, it's become so competitive over the years. And then your GPA too plays a very big factor. The 2 years of, your prerequisites and your general studies plays a whole big role into how soon or you can get into a nursing program. And once you graduate with your BSN, you can do any kind of nursing. This like I said, nursing is very vast. I personally did a few things. I did prison nursing, I did med surg, I did cardiac. So I tested quite a few things. And after working for a while, I decided that, you know, I wanted to go further, to do something more. I just didn't want to, you know, just end as a bedside nurse. Again, if you have the strength, a bedside nursing it's not a problem, but you know, there's always opportunity to, you know, to advance yourself and do better. So I decided to, I didn't do the traditional route. After your BSN, you can go and get a master's to do nurse practitioning. But I decided to just jump straight into a doctoral program. It takes a bit longer. It's not longer, it's a bit shorter, but it's like a compact program, so you don't have breaks in between. So from a BSN to a DNP, it was 3.5 years. So altogether, your 4 years of undergraduate, and then your 3 years of combined master's and doctorate together, which gives you about 7.5 years in total to get a DNP. A DNP is just a doctor in nurse practitioning, which is a little bit different from a PhD. A PhD means you're going more into academia. For DNPs, our research route takes a bit, it's shorter than, you know, the PhD people. With PhD, you can't do clinical practice. Let me just differentiate the difference between a DNP and a PhD nursing. With a PhD, you can't do clinical practice. With a DNP, you can do clinical practice and also research, but we don't do a lot of research like we're not academia a lot like the PhD holders. So you can it just depends on what you want to do. I knew that I wanted to do something more clinical. So so DNP was what I thought was the best route for me. And after your nursing, I forgot to mention, once you graduate with your BSN, you have to take a board certified exam. It's called the NCLEX. So now all of this is saying for somebody who's in the US. Now, assuming that you did nursing outside of the US in Cameroon or somewhere else, I think after COVID, it's been a lot easier for nurses, international nurses, to immigrate into the system. Once you go to an accredited college 4 years and you come to the US, all you need is, have your work credentialed. I think they go through the same evaluation systems like every other person does. And once you go through the evaluation system and, depending on the state, because here, medicine, nursing, whatever, it's state by state. Every state is different. Their criterias or what they need, their recommendations or whatever, it's different. So depending on your state, when you come, just do a little bit of research on your state and what their requirements are. But the first thing first is to get your credentialing, get your stuff credentialed so that you can use it to apply to take the NCLEX exam. So for you to practice as a nurse, you have to take the NCLEX. So once you pass the NCLEX, then your license to practice as a nurse in the US. This last year, I was able to help about 4 people and really shorten their process. Again, when you come, it's really a good thing to get connected with the people who have gone ahead for just little tips. And, that way it doesn't take you too long to try to figure out something that would have taken you a short period of time. So last year, I had 4 amazing women from Cameroon get their nursing degree within 6 months of being in the US. So again, it cuts back you trying to, I've had some people come from Cameroon and, before I could get to talk to them, they told me they were back enrolled into a nursing program. I'm like, why would you do that? All you needed to do was just get your stuff credentialed and, apply to take the NCLEX, and that's it, as simple as that. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much. And that was the question I had for you. Like, those who are migrating from Cameroon, what is the biggest mistake you realize they do? I think you have mentioned it. What is the biggest mistake? I think it's still going to go back to what Chobufo said, called networking and understanding the pathway. When I moved here to the US, everyone told me back then to go back to nursing school and do nursing. Those who were around me, they didn't even believe in what my goals were. But I had done my research and I was lucky. I had friends who had already gone through residency. So those were just naysayers. I didn't even listen to them. So what do you think is the biggest mistake that nurses make when they move over when they migrate to the US?
I think the same, I mean, from my little experience with a few people that I've spoken with, it's not getting the information that they really need. Most people come in, and even like I said, nursing is, I mean, you can get such big opportunities with nursing. I have seen people who were nurses back home come here and deviate to something else, you know, because they wanted something quicker, but at the same time, they didn't do their research or get the information that they really needed to help them in the process. It can be a very short route. You can have a short route if you get the right information or get connected with the right people. Or you can decide to take a very long route, like a GPS. If you don't turn where it says you should turn, you will take a very long route again to still boil down, you know, and come down to the same place. I have a friend who will be graduating here in December. She's been here, I believe, for about 7 years. I believe when I first of all got in contact with this girl, she did nursing back home. And, you know, I advised her when I met her, like, you know, it's okay for you to pursue back your, you know, if you were truly passionate about nursing. And she wanted to go do, I don't know if it calls Scrum Master or something. I'm not very, anything outside medicine, I'm really bad at it. But she wanted to go do some Scrum Master or something. And for 3 years, she kept trying and it just did not work. And finally, you know, she came back to the route of nursing, something that she would have been done a long time ago. It's now that she's finishing.
Wow. Thank you very much. And one last question for the sake of time. I know a lot of people don't know how much nurses make, as much as nurse practitioners. If you are, let's say you decide you are a nurse practitioner, I just want you to give an idea to those who are in the Cameroonian audience. I know the money varies from anesthesiologists to neonatologists, to those who do family medicine. But I think nurse practitioners and nurses is one of the most, I always talk about it like one of the most diverse jobs you can do. You can work from the nursing home to the clinic to community nursing to several subspecialties. I work in oncology. I have oncology nurse practitioners that help me out. So what is the average salary? What is the max? And what do you think the minimum could be? I know people could make up to even 500,000 as nurses.
So, I mean, like with the BSN, you can make, with a BSN, you can make up to about, I want to say about 90,000, even 100,000 with just your BSN. Again, depending on where you work. For example, something like hospice has a lot of money. When I worked hospice, I made about 6 figures. So hospice, depending on what you're working, just that was with the BSN, you can make up to about 100,000. Now with the COVID and the variety of traveling nurse and all those other things that are, you can make about like solid 100,000. But averagely, let's be honest, you could be anywhere from 50K to like 75K with a BSN. Now, if you talk about nurse practitioning, I did adult gerontology primary care. Population for me is from 12 and above. Depending on what setting that you work at, again, you can still make anywhere from 90,000 to, you know, in the high hundreds or in the mid hundreds, but averagely about 120.
Thank you very much. And I just want to thank everyone who participated in the town hall today. We would give about 20 minutes for questions, answers, and contributions, because I think we do have, I see a lot of different healthcare professionals who are present here, like Dr. Samuel. There are several others who may want to answer questions. You have Dr. Folak, who is also a public health physician. There are multiple people working in different areas in the diaspora who are Cameroonians. And I'm going to open the town hall for questions, answers, contributions for the last 20 minutes. So please stay tuned. And if you can just raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. During our next session, we'll really dive into dentistry and some also pharmaceutical world and pharmacology and pharmacist. Any questions or contributions?
I'll kick this one off. I've seen some questions around DRPH, PhD, MPH, and all of that. And I personally, I believe that those things, it depends on what you want to do. And we live in a world today where those diplomas and papers that they give us are really fine lines. I personally believe the world has changed so much after COVID. And instead of focusing on, should I do a PhD or an MPH? It depends on what is the skill that I want to acquire and what is the skill that I want to deploy. And you can't be doing an MPH or a PhD or MSc in international health. You should be thinking, what are the core key skills I want to acquire while doing this program? And at times, those skills may not be in the program that you are doing. Those skills may be somewhere in Coursera, maybe somewhere in Udemy, maybe somewhere. But go and look for those skills, because those are the skills that are going to take you to where you want to go. So I know, having trained in Cameroon, and there's this really francophone mindset of HealthCare diploma. We should really shift from that diploma-oriented mindset. I call it diplomitis, and to think about core skills. Because in this world today, you can work in it doesn't really matter what diploma, although we do agree that those things matter, especially if you have a PhD from Cambridge.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Cathay, for that wonderful contribution. And I want to call on Dr. Bechem. He's been answering a lot of questions in the chat. And just to introduce Bechem, Bechem is presently doing his residency, and he has a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. And I didn't want to talk about pharmacology today. I just want Bechem to tell us what the PhD environment looks like in the US. How did he find himself living from Boyer and getting a PhD, and what is going to be his advice to the young ones who are there? And was that PhD worth it? It's always worth it to do studies. And right now, as a clinician, how is he transitioning?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mono. It's been a while. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here today. I'm really inspired. Honestly, as he said, everyone has their story. The first thing when one of my cousins learned that I had a lottery was that, oh, just come and get one of the nursing programs and you get your NCLEX and it'll be easy for you, My first thing, of course, I came here with my wife and son. The first thing was, okay, this lady was gonna support me get the NCLEX, the USMLE, and I get into residency. That was my plan A. Plan B was like, I was coming from the UK with an MPH. Maybe I get some research associate position, research assistant, and then I get in. Then plan C is, what if all these don't work? What am I gonna do? Okay, I will pursue my PhD in public health. That was my plan before leaving the UK to the US. So now fast forward, plan A couldn't work. My wife is a nurse from Cameroon. I answered a question that no one from their school had ever been to the NCLEX. So I had to initiate a process for their school, work with their school, and then she took the NCLEX. Secondly, since she could work like a CNA, I had to start working also to support her and the family. Thirdly, having a job as a research associate was practically impossible. I don't know how many applications I put out there. No one even invited me for any interview, So I got into this program where I was found in Florida. This program was offering wonderful pharmacology, pharmaceutical sciences. And I just got up one morning. I drove to that school and said, okay, what do you have to offer me? These are my credentials. They gave me everything. Behold, I prepared a GRE within 2 weeks. And I applied for pharmacology. The day they called me for an interview, they asked me, what do you want to pursue for your PhD again? And I changed to pharmaceutics. Honestly, I didn't know what it was. I was like, let me just tread a new ground. I've never heard, a lot of people have been in pharmacology. I've done some pharmacology in clinical medicine. Let me just peruse this pharmaceutical science. The lady asked me, do you know what it is? I said, well, I might not know, but I'm ready to. All is that I'm ready to move on this journey. She admitted me, but I had a problem having a supervisor. All of them said all medical doctors who have come here ended up dropping off because of their USMLA and everything. I hope it will not be the same with you. Someone placed a bet on me, like, okay, I will take my chances to hire you. And that is how I started. But I will tell you, I never regretted it. I will never regret it. It changed everything. My impression about the US, how the community, how the society is, what it's all about. Networking, talking to people and everything. Before I transitioned into residency was through this town hall platform. The first time I met Dr. Muno was on the platform and I told him, look, this is what I'm doing. And immediately we had a talk and that changed everything about, my vision, and everything changed from there. I will tell you the PhD was wonderful. It was like a stepping stone into the residency, and up to now, I'm looking forward to fellowship. And a few people I've spoken to, they're like, they need you on board.
Yeah.
So anything you do when you're trying to develop yourself in academics, in research, you'll never regret it. I have a lot of ideas. To someone asked question about the ABIMI track. When I finished my PhD, I was interested in the ABIMI track. ABIM track is like they call it physician scientist track or MD PhD track. I applied in a couple of them, even though I didn't have any interview. But to be honest, I know of someone who did that and went through it. It's a wonderful program. They train you to be a scientist and a physician at the same time. You grow up as a clinical researcher, and it's a wonderful program. If you can get into it, it's great, especially for those of us who have had NPH before coming to the US. That is just a few I can say, but thank you very much, Dr. Mono.
Thank you for the contribution. I was about to answer that question. So what is very important in the physician scientist track is that your PhD should be related to what you want to do as your subspecialty. So everyone here knows Dr. Boguma Titanji, who is a professor at Emory. I think that's the track she used. She had a PhD in virology, and so she did a physician scientist track. I know several Cameroonians, like Dr. Bang Pamela. There are many of them who did a physician scientist track. I know a radiologist who just smashed into a physician scientist track, a Cameroonian. He had a PhD in medical radiology and did a residency in France. So you should know exactly what those parts are. Very few, but they are selective, and usually it can be easier if you have the right qualification. So that's just one thing to add. Now, before we close the session, we have about 10 minutes. If there are no hands up, I just want to give some honorary voices to Dr. Enoro. Can you unmute yourself and say a few words? What advice do you have before I give to Franklin?
Thank you, Dr. Mono. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. The presentations today they're very exciting, and I think it's right. It's at the right time. It's in a good time for all those who are trying to navigate this field, which I think we have experienced people in this panel who have really elaborated and shed some light and clarity as to how to navigate it. They have said everything. Everything. Chobufo, Arnold, Dr. Onana, and everyone in the panel. I just want to say, in all of these presentations, nursing, pathology, and public health, we have heard a lot of these guys' success stories. The one thing I want to highlight behind their success story is that they all worked very hard. They all worked extremely hard. They all worked beyond normal to get to where they are. And you will see them now and celebrate, and they'll shed light on what they have achieved But in between, there has been difficulty, there has been failures, which is what made them to be what they are today. And we take advantage and pride of their story in entirety, in their success that made them more resilient to achieve the big successes which they have had, and which they are freely expressing it and giving it out today to the world and to this platform, to help everyone coming behind us to have a more easy and successful story. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Muno.
very much. And Dr. Enoru is an interventional cardiologist. Those who are interested, you can network with him. I would call on someone I've not, someone we did residency together. So Dr. Marilyn Formy, I don't know if you're at work. Can you unmute yourself and say a word or two? If you're able to, if not, that's fine. So I think Dr. Formy may be at work. We did residency together, and she's an internist. So if there are no more questions and no more contributions, I think the town hall would come to an end today. We're looking forward to opportunities like this, where we can connect the diaspora in health fields. You realize today that we talked about multiple health fields. At a certain point, there were almost 100 participants. I know the session has been very long. There were about 100 participants, and it's been an exciting session to learn about what we do in the field of research. It's unbelievable the opportunities that are here and how much people can earn in the field of laboratory sciences, in the field of pharmacists. Being a pharmacist, being a dentist, being a physician, being a public health specialist, being a nurse, there are multiple other opportunities when we move over to the diaspora. So I would give the mic to Dr. Franklin Maloba, the last question, and then over to Dr. Kate, and then I would pass over to Elvis. Then we conclude.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Mono, and the town hall for the great and excellent presentation and talks. I think that is really encouraging to see how to motivate a lot. Yeah, but if I was watching this program from Cameroon, I would have been like, what am I doing here? Because getting what people are doing and the type of money they are making out there, and then back what people, scientists, clinicians, medical lab scientists are going through back home. Like when I left, I also did medical lab science from UB, and my first job I went there to give me 40,000 francs a month in a private clinic. 40,000 francs a month. That's about $80. Then imagine such a student being here in town hall listening to this. He will just think that I'm wasting my time here in Cameroon. And I'm afraid that we should try to not cause such a chaos back home with this type of platform and what everyone is saying here, Yeah, so I think it's something to tell those back home that what you are doing just do it better and just be the best in it. Because I got a PhD scholarship to come here because of the work I was doing back home, and it's based on that work that maybe it got me to where I am today. So I just want to tell those back home that sometimes it's not just about all these, but it's just about doing what you are doing it to the best way you can and making it to be known. Why networking? It can lead you to anywhere. Yeah, so they should not give up. They should keep up the power and the strength to actually reach there. They should know that the future is bright. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Franklin. And I think that's going to be our closing message. I've always said I'm a believer of, I love Cameroon, and this is my time to give back in multiple ways. But there is no way you can get an effective workforce when you don't engage in building capacity and paying them adequately. At times, you need those who are back home to come into the diaspora, get trained, and those knowledge will go back. Those who are back home aspiring to come into the diaspora need to understand how to do it right. and not migrate and get frustrated. So this platform, the goal is really for them to know people they can network with, how they can migrate over here and actually do what they love within the time frame they love and help their families and be able to give it back home. So our goal moving forward is really getting a platform where we can educate, we can link up the young people back home, we can actually sustain the healthcare system by getting the minister here and also working with the Minister of Health and the Cameroonian government, engaging others to open private hospitals. Like one of our participants, multiple of them, Dr. Samuel has a private hospital in Cameroon. I think Sydney Taze has a private hospital in Cameroon. Multiple people here do have investments in Cameroon, and that is how the diaspora supports. And we need to advocate at each and every level to sustain this. So I would love to get our last words from my co-moderator, Dr. Kate, and also Dr. Ndas. If Elvis is here, he should give his last word. I think Elvis is not around, but Kate.
Thank you, Mono. Thank you, Franklin, for bringing that perspective. And it's been really an exciting session. And I believe this session is going to give, the front kick or the impetus for the rest of the year. We've talked, long and large across different clinical specialties, across different, job areas and job domains. And I'm sure everybody, whether those in Cameroon, whether those in the US, UK, or anywhere else in the world have learned. I've learned a lot tonight. And I know many of us get, contacted. There's no single week that goes by without me receiving a CV to look at from someone from Cameroon. And usually my point is, as you rightly said, Bono, that, as people move for one reason or the other, whether for academics, whether for economics or so, these effects always trickle back home. And I am for brain circulation rather than brain drain. I don't believe anymore in brain drain. We are in a day and age where a lot of knowledge circulates, and we should move in the direction where those brains, Mono's brains, Arnold, Divine, all of you, Kenji, all of you, how can these brains be circulated, from the US through Cameroon, through Nigeria, through Cote d'Ivoire, and to other parts of Africa? And as I believe as technology improves, in the coming years, brain circulation is going to be the main thing, where people will sit in the US, telemedicine, and do formidable work in Cameroon. So that is that's the direction in which I see things. And I believe, I just really want to encourage anyone, if you need, for those who are younger looking for opportunities, you can always get to us. If you need me to look at your CV, personal statement, or, and many others here, I'm sure I will be interested to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Elvis, is Elvis around? Last words? So if Elvis is not around, I think we're going to close the session. I've had multiple healthcare professionals have multiple projects, including projects like doing rounds in Cameroon. Once you move over to Cameroon, contact the university. Some of you will be able to give lectures. I'm planning on giving 2 grand round lectures in Cameroon this year, not next year, this year, on breast cancer and gynecological cancers. There are multiple other projects that we'll do. And please join the town hall whenever you're free. If you want to be a presenter at the town hall, reach out to any of the moderators. We're going to end the session, but we'll stay for 30 minutes for what we call the parking lot, for those who want to be here. So see you all in a month. So we stopped recording, and we're stopping sharing live. So right now we are at the parking lot. No, we are not recording you. You can say what you want to say. You can say whatever. There are a lot of people who work with the ministry in Cameroon, and they are not free to talk. They were waiting for these sessions in order to make their comments heard. So I see Dr. Erwan has put on his mic, his camera. Erwan, ça va? You're muted. So please, you can always dash out as much as you want. Now there is no, it's not, the official session is over.
Okay.
Hello, Muno.
Yeah, hello.
It's a pleasure to meet all these old folks. You are now all old folks. I've seen Enoru, Onana. You're all old, my dear, my guys. Everybody's getting some gray hair.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful session. It was a wonderful session. And actually, I came a little bit late. And I wish I could have shared it to students and a lot of young colleagues, all those guys who are now getting out of school, especially nowadays that our time, you remember we were already taken as civil servants. So in a certain way, we didn't think too much. After sometimes maybe some of us, we had some uncles, friends who had gone. Others were just like, okay, I'm going to be a civil servant. They will post me and then they will have this specialist. But nowadays that you have almost 700 medical doctors, I can't even count the number of nurses that ending every year that the Cameroon is releasing every year. And you can imagine that the government is not recruiting. So a lot of guys are there thinking of what they would do, what is the next step, and the next step. And what happens is usually sometimes we don't know what to tell them, or we don't know where they can get the maximum information. So this session, I think you have to do it at least twice or even 3 times during this year for us to also share the information for the young ones to know that is to hear, to understand that in the health field, there are so many pathways, and then people should not be just frustrated because what they wanted to do, they couldn't do and feel like there is no much thing to do. Meanwhile, there are a lot of things to do. So I always appreciate what you do, and the moment will come, as I always tell you, that I will come and I'll share some of my experience on the Cameroon Town Hall, but the moment is not yet there. So really, I really appreciate it. It was really good.
Thank you very much, Dr. Erwan. For those who don't know Erwan was my classmate. He's a surgeon. He owns his own practice in Douala. So he owns his private practice in Douala, and very bilingual. We did study together, and he did his residency over in Ghana. I can imagine the day Erwan came to me and said he wanted to go to Ghana. I was like, oh God. So welcome back, and thank you for all what you're doing and for the guidance you're giving back home. Our goal is not to... Yes, please.
Please, can I have Erwan, please, can you share your, I don't know, your LinkedIn profile? So Ghana was my first destination.
LinkedIn?
I don't know.
Okay.
You're connected to
In fact,
LinkedIn, something like that.
I have a LinkedIn profile, but really, I didn't upgrade it really.
Yes.
I mean, I opened it the day I heard about it.
Maybe on emails, your email address can be something.
Yes, an email. I will share my email. Let me write it right down on the chat.
Thousand thanks. It's true that after this kind of sessions, and I don't know how I can describe my feelings. I feel a little bit ashamed because you realize that it looks like you were in darkness part of the world, and you didn't realize the opportunities that were for you. And yes, I graduated in Cameroon, but there's a truth that our lecturer do not prepare us to the realities. And this is it just I have a mixed feelings now. So a kind of mixed feeling, like you ask yourself, what am I doing here? What am I doing here, really? And yeah, there's no hope. There's realities here. There's no hope. Cameroonians are very, very talented people. And when we look to futures, the future is not bright, if I can say something like that. I regret that I didn't discover those kind of opportunities in the past, but it's never too late. It's never too late. So thank you so much about this wonderful sessions. You don't know what you create today, but I believe that one day we are going to get in touch each other. I thank God with some of my colleagues here, and as I started working with the Washington University on their e-learning trainings, and I become an AGS partner. So I would see if they can write me a letter of recommendations when I start my procedures. And this is not it's not nothing. It's something that matters. It matters. Having this experience with them and meeting you today, guys, you don't know what you're creating me. You don't know what you give me today. And knowledge is a power. Knowledge is a power. So thank you. Be proud of yourself, because you make something today. You make something today.
Thanks. And we're here. There are a lot of people who can mentor you, and you can mentor other young ones. So it's mentorship, like a relay race.
Giving back to the communities. I believe that there's not bigger things to giving back to the communities. No one will remember. Sometimes when I sit down now, I think about my burial. It look crazy to talk about it, but what would I like someone to say? But I want someone to stand up and say, okay, meeting this guy changed my life. So it's just the only things that people remind you forever and ever. No one remind Nelson Mandela for his salary or all this thing, but they remind him about what he did for the community. And this is enough. And this gas always gave my life. So thank you. Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much for those emotional talks. And giving back, there's nothing like giving back and changing lives and making sure that when you go somewhere, as Cameroonians, we have not had that culture where we pull others. We try to push people off the cliff, and we discover gold and we try to hide it away from people. If we're able to discover gold and tell everyone where the gold is, I think we'll build a better community. So I don't think we need, if you go somewhere and you're alone, if tomorrow you stay in the US, let's say you're a cardiologist, you're alone, it doesn't serve you. The others will come in, they will not take anything away from you. If you're a clinical researcher coordinating all the research for Pfizer and you're alone and you're not able to share, you're not going to serve any purpose. So I think pulling each other up is something we need to do, not push them off the cliff. There are people who have succeeded in Cameroon who are here. You ask them questions, people don't want to tell you what they did. It's like a mystery. And these are things we need to start rooting off our society.
Exactly. What you said is the truth. One thing changed my mind because I did the vast majorities of my trainings in French, and I met some wonderful person 2 years ago, and he told me, okay, you find opportunities, try to work with Anglo-Saxon people, and this I was amazed to see the way they like to see people's success in life. They guide you step by step. They change your mindset. And my dear, I'm falling in love.
Yeah.
I'm falling in love.
So while we discuss other things, anyone has any contributions, the mic is open for the parking lot, and we can talk about several things. And
Yeah,
yes,
Dr. Mona, I
please.
want to step in.
Yes, Franklin. Then later on, let's give the
Yes.
mic to Etta.
Yeah, I think that the part of success or the limitation to the part of success in Cameroon actually start from the educational system, you know. Like in the US here, when I came to the US, there were renowned professors that I met and they asked me to call them by their names. I was like, why should I call this guy by his name? Because in Cameroon, if somebody is a doctor, even not just calling that title doctor, that guy can make you an enemy in his class, you know. So there's already that barrier from the beginning, even as a student, you know. But here, I met a guy like, I feel uncomfortable calling you just by your name. And he told me, Franklin, you know what? You are a researcher. And there are ideas you have brought in this lab that I would never thought of. So we are collaborating. You know, just that alone changed my mindset about a lot of things. And I think we need to start to break that from our academic system where we believe that, you know, students have something to contribute. Yeah, students have something to contribute. But in Cameroon, you see somebody will say, I'm the Bible of parasitology. You know, I'm the Bible of parasitology. It means that no one can ever know more than me. Even the student he's teaching, he believes that this student will never know more than him. So I think that is some of those things that the students are not coming close to the teachers to get their experience on how their path was like. And also in Cameroon, it's difficult to even know the path of many of our teachers. No teacher have ever come in the phase of class to talk about his career path. And many of the students are just blinded and all they know is magical, looking for magical. How can I get a government magical? How can I bribe to get this? You know, doing everything just to get the magical. Just for to realize that even after the magical, you may still need to spend 2 years working without any salary. That's when the clock starts to kick in. What am I doing here? So I think that is a systemic thing that needs to start to be changed. And I'm happy that people like you, Dr. Mono, are wishing to start this journey of going back home to give lecture back. I believe just your experience and even the way you make things, it will help some of these students to think out of that box. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Maloba. And Ethan?
Yeah, thank you. Good day, Dr. Mono, and good day to all the moderators. I think it has been a beautiful session, just like all the other sessions which silently have been partaken. So this one especially touched me because what a lot of the speakers spoke on is something which I've gone through, and I've seen some of those shortcomings which I would like to share my experience. So I'm Ditah Shilton, and I left Cameroon. Presently, I'm in the US. I left Cameroon with a bachelor's in nursing, where I later went down to South America and got into medicine, where I graduated as a medical doctor. So now that is that transition of having my bachelor's degree in nursing being recognized in South America to permit me work as a nurse while going to medical school. It was challenging because not all of those nursing schools in Cameroon are recognized outside. So sometimes you want to pave your pathway, like somebody was mentioning here in the chat box, so much so that once you have your nursing school recognized there, any other student that comes from your country having that kind of challenge will not face the kind of problem like you. So presently in the US, I've done something similar because like I mentioned to you, Dr. Mono, in the private message, I'm in the process of taking the USMLE, yeah, for step one. So what I did was, or what I'm doing is having my nursing back in Cameroon recognized here in the US, so much so that I'm able to work as a nurse, as a registered nurse, while preparing for my USMLE. So one of the obstacles which I had was the issue back then in Cameroon of the nursing council. So it's like they tell you you went to a nursing school, fine, but who registers you into the nursing council? So I tried getting in contact with different people back in Cameroon to see how I could get my registration there in the nursing council. And they told me it wasn't possible, that the only thing I have to do is to come back to Cameroon, wait for the exams to be launched and take the exams again. So just an advice for people who want to go the nursing route, having your certificate registered into the nursing council, that's Cameroon Order of Medical Professions, is very vital to get your papers being recognized here and to get on with the NCLEX. Then, Dr. Mona, what I also wanted to suggest with regards to the USMLE, especially for us with the Cameroonian background, is if there is any WhatsApp group, or if there is like a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group whereby seniors like yourself or the other moderators, they could create a WhatsApp group whereby all Cameroon medical students or all those interested in the USMLE pathway, they could be part of the group. The reason I'm suggesting this is because I studied my undergraduate program in Ecuador, where they have this IMG Ecuador, whereby all medical students in Ecuador that wants to get into the US through a USMLE, they are part of this group, where they share opportunities, they share everything, and it helps. You never know how a message can help someone in the process. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just your last suggestions, there are already several groups. There is the ACPA, which is a group I would really encourage you to join. The ACPA is actually a forum of Cameroonian physicians here in the US. They have a student group where they do a lot of mentorship. So inquire about that. You can go online, you type ACPA. Forum is American and Canadian Physician Associations in the US. So they do a lot in order. The problem is actually sharing this information. Then you have other WhatsApp group, even Divine, who was here. Divine does a lot of mentoring. Dr. Chobufo does a lot of mentoring, and many others. Every year, I don't want to always publicize it. For the past 5 years, I've been writing more than 20 letters of recommendations every cycle for people I don't even know. So a lot of people are doing a lot, and there's a lot of these groups. The question is us making sure that the young generations know about this group and they know about the existence of these things exist. So mentorship is very key. Connection is very important. So please, and a lot of those WhatsApp groups are actually closed groups. So it's important that you actually connect with some of these people here. If you can connect with Divine, you can connect with Dr. Chobufo, the ACPA, you can Google that and send an application to be a student member.
Okay.
It's called ACPA.
Okay, look, thank you.
Yes. So that's a group. I am part of that group. I'm not part of the student affairs. Raisa, she's a fellow in oncology. She's finishing this year. She's been a big push. It's called Association of Cameroonian Physicians in the Americas. Raisa she's been a mentor that has mentored multiple young people. She even advocates for them and gets observerships among all our members. Cameroon has more than 1,000 doctors in the US. More. You cannot believe it, but there are so many Cameroonians who are physicians in the US. Some of them have private practices. And by getting into that group, you'll be able to get a lot of resources. Those are things we didn't talk about today. I'm a member there, and they're doing a great job. Okay. So if no more questions, I think we've taken everyone's time. It's a Saturday. A lot of people are busy. I'm happy we had over 100 participants today. Wish you all the best. As Irwan said, we'll try to do this at least 3 times this year. It looks like it's a topic the young generations are enthusiastic about. And next time we'll have speakers in other healthcare adventures in the US and in Europe. We didn't talk about Europe. We didn't talk a lot more about the UK. And we do have several organizations that are doing a great job in the UK. CamDog UK, they're doing a wonderful job. We'll invite them to talk about, and their members also, several opportunities in Europe and in France. So wish you all the best. Have a wonderful Saturday and weekend, and see you during our next session.
Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah, stay blessed, everyone.